There are 204 unique pals in Palworld 1.0, ranging from unpaid Amazon factory workers to Pikachu's 300-pound cousin with a minigun to this guy. That brother's only natural enemy is a calorie deficit. And I have 100 days to enslave them all. And along the way, I'm gonna build an industrial empire with questionable labor practices, base, and defeat every single boss that stands between me and the end of the game. But there was just one problem. I needed a character that was good enough to do all of this. A natural-born leader. A man capable of overcoming anything. And I found the perfect specimen. Ladies and gentlemen, meet handsome Squidward. On day one, I woke up on the beach, confused, naked, and handsome. And a few minutes later, I made my way out of the spawn and unlocked the very first fast travel point. I'm so excited for this, man. The map looks insane. My first experience on this game included this little thing called a lamb ball, this random lady that really likes campfires, and this absolute behemoth. But anyways, I needed to level up so I could make some Pokeballs. So I picked these sticks up off the ground, and then I repeatedly punched my neighbor in the face. And that was just enough for me to reach a humble level 2. Sorry, buddy, but it's for a good cause. So after I attended a college seminar on how to not be homeless, I tried to strike up a conversation with this campfire-loving lady. Hey, how's it going, dude? But she basically just told me I smelled weird. Well, that was rude. So it was time to catch my very first pal, Mr. Lamball. So I made this workbench and got a part-time job as a wooden stick farmer. And a few sticks, some rocks, and a couple paldium later, I crafted 2 Pokeballs. Pal spheres. This game is a masterclass in how to avoid getting sued for copyright infringement.
Is there no way we can get rid of him?
Not without cause, Michael.
I have cause. It is because I hate him.
To make friends in this game, you have to beat them upside the head until they're one hit away from dying. And right when they start begging for mercy, you grab a pal sphere and you chuck it straight at their eyebrow. And since Lamballs are like a starter pal, it was a 100% success rate. Also, disclaimer, if you try to do this to make friends in real life, the success rate might be a bit lower. Anyways, his name is Hubert. And Hubert is really good at building things for your base, but I'm still in between bases at the moment. And I was about to start scouting around to find a good spot for the base. But then I looked over at the campfire lady and I had a better idea. Wait, you can catch the NPCs in this game, right? And I didn't really think about what would happen if I tried this, but I wanted to kidnap this person. So I punched her in the face, but then the police showed up. Oh no. Yeah, apparently enslaving people is a crime. And I didn't really know what to do now, so I just attempted to arrest the police officer. But there was a 0.1% chance of that actually happening. And yeah, long story short, they murdered me. Good times.
Why is it whenever I'm having fun, it's wrong?
Anyways, my Lamball named Hubert was the very first pal, and he marks pal number 1 out of 204. And I'm gonna catch them all, or at least try to. So I spent the rest of day 1 making a stone pickaxe, using it to beat some rocks into submission, and making a stone hatchet, because as the sun set, it was getting super cold outside, and I was low-key dying from hypothermia. Okay, I need a torch. But now that all the basics were taken care of, it was time to explore the map and set up a humble abode. Wow, man, look at this map. I haven't played since the game first came out, so this is kind of, I'm excited, man. As the sun rose on day 2, I picked up a stick. And now I'm level 3.
Victory!
But after decreasing this mountain's property value by farming some iron ore, some paldium, and grabbing this treasure chest that had someone's soul inside, I was trying to find a super open area for a base. And at one point I took a break to kidnap this elephant. I saw a ton of new pals that I'm gonna have to come back for, and a couple that were built like a minivan, but a few minutes later, I hit rock bottom. Because down here, I met this veteran pal trainer, and even more campfire connoisseurs. The Amish lady here gave me a side quest to deliver some soup to her friend, because she's too lazy to do it herself. Okay, do I look like an Amazon delivery driver to you? I actually don't answer that. But anyways, through this little archway right behind the mountain, I found this. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is exactly what I was hoping to find. Oh, and it's right next to Rain Syndicate Tower, too. The Rain Syndicate Tower is the first boss fight on this game. And with this giant open area to set up a base, it was time to start catching some brand new pals and preparing for the fight. So I deployed Hubert to start working on the farm, unpaid of course. And basically, the pals just work for you at base like this. And I know what you're thinking, okay? But it's not slavery, it's just, It's an unpaid internship. Yeah, we'll go with that. But Mr. Hubert was already slacking off 30 seconds into his never-ending shift. But if I'm gonna survive the boss tower, I need something powerful. So it's time to go hunting for Frostallion, Jet Dragon, or maybe Dorothy Gale? Oh wait, that's not a pal. In Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is running a brand new event, the Echoes of Oz, where you can get this magically enhanced redhead and her emotional support dog for completely free by just logging into the game for 7 days before November 19th. And there's 4 other champions from Oz to collect as well. The Scarecrow, who's kinda creepy, Tin Woodman, whose heavy metal heart bursts into fire, the Cowardly Lion, who lives in a constant state of fear, and of course, Azilda the Wicked. And Azilda even has her own brand new event dungeon where you can fight her to the death for some chronophage gear. I've been playing Raid for 2 years now, and Dorothy is the best free legendary login champ I've ever seen, with buff strip, crowd control, and a bunch more crazy stuff. And I've also been having a ton of fun with the Grim Forest. It almost feels like its own little RPG inside the game, and it's probably my favorite thing I've played so far. And if you download Raid today using my QR code on screen or the link in the description below, you're gonna get 3 free legendary champions and 1 epic. First up is Narma the Returned, a legendary support. Then at level 15, you're gonna get Chonoru from the Shadowkin faction. And of course, log in for 7 days to get the free legendary Dorothy Gale. And once you're in, new players can use one of these 4 legendary promo codes to pick from Alice the Wanderer, Cheshire Cat, Pelops the Victor, and Grand Oak Padraig. I'd recommend Cheshire Cat because his damage is amazing for both PvP and PvE, but just keep in mind that these champions are only available by downloading through my QR code or link. And by downloading through my link, you're supporting me, and I really appreciate that. So don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends today, and thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. But there was a lot to do, and I spent the next 10 minutes just assaulting some trees and forcing Hubert to build stuff for me. But with all the basic structures set up and 22 red berries for Hubert's ration for lunch, the base was now level 2, and I could hire a second unpaid intern. Hello, sir. Would you like a job? This was an Urbil, and he was level 7, which is actually pretty good. So I was trying to summon my elephant to lower the dude's health a bit, but I accidentally threw a Pokeball at him instead. Oh, no, that was my last one. And then, well, what happened next was basically World War III. This dude was strong, and when Hubert tried to use his obesity as a weapon by rolling on top of the guy, well, he got majorly injured. So there I was, already on my second bag of popcorn, just watching an elephant gun down a lemur in the streets. Sorry, man, but you didn't get the job. But anyways, day 2 was coming to an end. And while everyone was sleeping peacefully for the night, this was when I realized that you could actually name your pals. So I named my elephant Elon Tusk, and I officially named the Lamball Hubert. So on day 3, I queued up 25 pal spheres in the workbench, convinced Hubert to make them for me, and it was time to catch some new pals to run the base. So while they were crafting, I farmed some wood, and I was exploring around a little bit, and that's when I saw this fish in the water. Wait, what is that? Is that a shiny? I really wanted to catch whatever that thing was. So I crafted a bow and some arrows. Hubert, why are you not helping? And I was planning on just like sniping the fish. But when I tried to do that, well, the dude disappeared. And at the time, I didn't really know what just happened, but since I already had the bow and 17 more pal spheres, I decided to take advantage of this opportunity. It's time to hire some more unpaid interns. And just like that, I've enslaved everyone that lives within a 3-mile radius of my house. Catching new pals gives a lot of XP, and if you catch 5 of the same pal, you get another bonus. So I might have to do that. But anyways, it was time to put these gentlemen to work. Unpaid work, of course. So I unlocked the berry plantation, the ranch, the pal gear workbench, and some saddles for the fellas. Gave everyone a very appropriate name, and I spent the night farming some wood and setting up a base. Nice. And on day 4, after setting up 4 little pathetic straw beds for the indentured servants, the base was now level 4, and I could hold 4 pals. Now, some of these guys are just for fighting, and others are better at farming, building, and all kinds of things. And these little icons here show you what they're good at. So I recruited Leif Erikson for farming, Snoop Frog for watering the plants, Chris P. Bacon for mining, and Bernie Sanders for cooking.
Someone cooked here.
I was pretty happy to see that Chris P. Bacon was taking his full-time job of assaulting boulders very seriously. That man's putting in work. And Snoop Frog here was carrying one tiny rock at a time while he hopped around at the speed of an inanimate object.
I didn't realize it was happy hopping moron day.
So I decided to set up some more storage boxes on the side of my house that are a bit closer for the guy. And then I realized this is kind of embarrassing, but I didn't even start the main quest until now. So the game wants me to craft a workbench. So I moved some stuff inside. Bro, what? Why does he look like that? And I kidnapped this pink Amazon factory worker that wandered into my front yard. He marks pal number 10 out of 204, by the way. And he's actually pretty useful for base stuff. So I fired Chris P. Bacon and hired this dude instead. Okay, I'm gonna take Moist Critical, Green Bean, and Chris with me, I think. Everything was going pretty well, and I spent most of the night just doing these basic missions that I forgot to do before. I don't know why these missions aren't retroactive, but whatever. But while everyone was sound asleep for the night, Bernie, why are you sleeping on the floor, bro? I queued up 90 arrows for my bow and went to sleep. It was now day 5, and I awoke to an unpaid intern crafting my stone arrows through the wall somehow. I think I need to give this man a raise.
You're a wizard, Harry.
But anyways, it was time to expand my base and start exploring and catching some new pals. So I built 2 plantations. Okay, yeah, I know that sounds kind of bad. It's not slavery though, I promise. I witnessed the power of teamwork as 8 dudes assembled the plantation. And I moved the food basket, the campfire, and a storage box here so they can grow their own crops and stop asking me for food.
Brother, may I have some oats? No.
And now that I was a humble level 8, I made a logging camp and a mining camp over here. And now my unpaid interns can work unlimited hours of unpaid overtime. Okay, actually, yeah, I see it now. It does kind of sound like slavery, but it's not. Probably. Let's just move along. I really needed to level up my base so I could have more pals here. So I crafted some cloth and I made this pal gear workbench for the base quest. And inside this workbench, I can make a saddle for Chris, or I can even turn Bernie Sanders into a flamethrower. You know, some of these things I say would sound very weird out of context. But anyways, the base is now level 5. So I put Chris into the mines, made 4 more beds so everybody can sleep tonight, and went to bed. Day 6 is Among Us. And with the base being self-sufficient, I really wanted to do the first boss fight in the Rain Syndicate Tower. Oh, there's also a world boss over here too. Definitely need some better pals for that though. So on day 6, it was time to explore the map. And over by the tower, I found this guy. These deer are really useful for exploring the map. Therefore, I wanted to brainwash him. So I summoned a penguin, lodged a stone arrow directly into the deer's eye socket, and then, well, his wife was kind of upset with me, which is valid to be honest. But I just kind of casually dodged his wife who was trying to murder me, while me and a penguin named after a famous YouTuber double-teamed that man. Eventually, Mr. Critical got sent into the Shadow Realm, but I used Green Bean as a distraction and hired him to my company. Venison Diesel has been tanked, marking pal number 11 out of 204. And I decided to physically incapacitate his wife as well. I made her a lumberjack for the rest of her life, and Venison Diesel is coming with me. I just need to hit level 12 for his saddle. So I built a ranch and a crusher for the base, and I assigned Hubert to a full-time job of literally standing here eating all day to produce wool. I'm kinda naked, so I need it. But while I was waiting on that, I continued the main quest, because that's the best way to level up in this game. So I fast traveled back to Handsome Squidward's birthplace, and I spent the next 15 minutes giving job applications to all 5 of the easy starter zone pals. Because catching 5 of the same pal gives a big XP boost. But anyways, it was nighttime again. And these sleep paralysis demon looking dudes only appear around here at night. Well, that man is creepy. So I summoned Venison Diesel, commanded him to assault a demon, and enslaved him. Nice. And by the way, those 5 chickens I caught marked pal number 12, and my sleep paralysis demon marks pal number 13 out of 204. And now I just have to try and sleep while this man stares into my soul. But it was now day 7, and after crafting some cloth, a parachute, and finally achieving my life goal of putting on pants, I was now level 9, and my new objective was to talk to the chief. Oh, who is that guy? And I also caught this Nox, who was pal number 14. But anyways, before I head out, I wanted some better weapons. I wanted a Bernie Sanders flamethrower. And I just needed to harvest 5 more organs to make one. So I commanded my sleep paralysis demon to steal the heart of Bernie's ancestors. And I also caught this Vixie, by the way, which marks PAL number 15. And I also hit level 10, which unlocks this. Wait, Egg Incubator must defeat Rain Syndicate Tower first though. And at first I wasn't sure what that was for, but literally 10 seconds later, I saw this. Oh, well that's terrifying. There was a nest of eggs guarded by the entire mafia of wolves on Wall Street. And there's no way that this was a good idea, but I wanted to fight them. All right, I'm trying that again. And just like that, I have successfully exterminated a family and stolen their eggs. I'm not gonna question why wolves had eggs, but yeah, the loot was pretty great. Also, there's a dungeon over here, which I'm gonna try soon after I get the flamethrower. But before any of that, I wanna test this guy out. He's a dog, so I named him the Mailman Hater. And if you were paying attention during that fight, I actually caught the boss, like the big boy Mailman Hater. And in this game, the bosses stay larger than everyone else, and they have better stats, which is pretty cool. Also, he marks PAL number 15. So on day 8, I had 4 out of the 5 organs that I needed to harvest today. So I told my Mailman Hater to go fetch me some kidneys. I queued up a flamethrower in the PAL workbench. This is actually like one of the best weapons for the beginning of the game. It's pretty insane, and I definitely wanted to test it out. Well, that was fun. At this point, I'm pretty sure I'm ready for the boss fight, but I wanted to visit the village chief first and see what he had to say. So I headed out, captured a couple alpacas along the way. $16 out of 204. And that got me to level 12. Oh, I can make the metal pickaxe now. But anyways, the small settlement was just down to the west. What is going on down there? Bro, he's being waterboarded. And over in the center of the small settlement was the village chief. Hey, how's it going, man? He kind of looked like the car wash owner from Breaking Bad. His eyebrows just loaded in before the rest of his face. And he basically just told me that I should check out that giant tree over there. And that if I talk to Zoe in the Rain Syndicate Tower, she could tell me how. Okay, I'm glad I went here first because now that's my quest. The rest of the small settlement consisted of a merchant, a creepy samurai that I don't feel comfortable being in the same room with, and a couple civilians that gave me some side quests. This guy wants me to show him a life monk. I guess I can do that. The PAL critic guy gave me a key for doing that quest, and I think it's for the chests in the dungeons. But I spent the rest of day 8 just exploring a little bit to the north, where I captured a walking spark plug. And I found this man named Hawk, an oversized thug. Oh, that's one of the bounty quests. I had to fight this man if I wanted to cross the bridge, but honestly, it was pretty easy. Mainly because his machine gun was doing less damage than the Nerf gun that I used to have as a kid. And even though his health was kinda insane, eventually he was low. And that's when I went for it. Oh, I think I got it. Ladies and gentlemen, I just caught me a human thug. Apparently, it's not a crime to enslave a criminal, because, I mean, the police aren't here. Normally, they just spawn right next to me. But Hawk was a syndicate thug, and just across the bridge over here was where the rest of his gang lived. Now, luckily, they all were kind of terrible at being thugs, and after I kidnapped one of their cousins, the Mailman Hater absolutely disintegrated them. Well, that was easy. And they had this Dazi locked in a cage, so I rescued her. Well, I mean, I kinda. She's still in captivity, but it's okay because I'm the main character, you know? But anyways, I kept exploring throughout the night, and I found some other nocturnal pals that are only out at night as well. Like this Tombat, who entered into indentured servitude, and everything was going pretty great. Or at least that's what I thought. But what happened next? Well, it ruined everything. Because as I made my way up this mountain, I saw a homeless man locked in a cage. And the game asked me if I wanted to free him. Yeah, sure. But then it like put me in this cutscene with the homeless man, so I couldn't move and I couldn't see. But in the background, you could just hear me getting physically assaulted by a degenerate. And when the cutscene ended, handsome Squidward had already met his handsome demise. Well, that was unfair. On day 9, it took a while to make it back. But long story short, I climbed a mountain, looted a very handsome corpse, and he sent an army of heathens to murder me. Wait, what? Dude, did I just get set up? But what Harold didn't account for, however, was that I was prepared. Okay, Harold, what was that, man? Apparently, Harold, he claimed that he had no affiliation to the thug lifestyle, and that those guys were attacking him, and I saved his life. I'm not sure I buy all that. But he claims I'm his hero, and he wants to know the name of his hero. My name's Handsome Squidward. But anyways, there were a lot more sociopaths around here, and after I took them out, I managed to catch this Lee's Punk, this Sparkit, and this Incineram, who were all pets of the thugs, I'm pretty sure. And at this point, I was low on ammo and even lower on the will to live. So I jumped higher than LeBron James onto the top of this building, unlocked a fast travel point. Whoa, okay. Yeah, this map is huge. And headed back to my humble abode. To sum things up from day 9, I now have Jolthog, Whistball, Dazzy, Tombat, Lee's Punk, Sparkit, and Incineram, marking PAL number 24 out of 204. Even though Toast Malone, the Incineram, and Night Shift Tombat here are super strong for the party, they're even more useful to my base. Bro, this man Toast Malone has level 3 mining and cooking, and he can craft stuff. So I spent the night doing some stuff around base and made a refining forge, a hot tub to make it slightly less slavery-ish around here, and a statue of power, which is used to upgrade my capture power and use the pal souls I find to level up my pals. But anyways, I was ready to take on the Rain Syndicate Tower. So I queued up some metal for the night shift workers and got some beauty sleep. Because on day 10, it was time to grind. So I named this former gang member Steve. He's a reformed syndicate thug. I crafted a saddle for Venison Diesel. I went to war with some iron ore. And I crafted an advanced crafting bench, a modern medicine bench. And finally, I made a crossbow. Okay, now I just need to figure out who I'm bringing to the fight. I really wanted to use Venison Diesel for this, but I had to make sure he was good. So I summoned that man, double jumped on this rock like a Jedi to grab a lightning egg, and I tested his combat skills on a very chill guy. Now, Venison Diesel has 2 attacks. First is the charge, and second is this range thing where he manifests a ball of light and launches it into the retina of his enemy. So yeah, I'd say he's pretty good. Also, I caught this Chillet and I named him Chill Bill. But on the way back to my base, I made a quick pit stop for some more metal. And another pit stop for some enslavement. Because I hired a pile of dirt and a mozzarella cheese connoisseur, which marked PALs number 26 and number 27 out of 204. We're on a pretty good pace. But anyways, catching those PALs finally got me to level 14. And that's when you unlock Megaspheres and the Sphere Workbench. Be profit. So after this boss fight, I can start exploring more and hiring higher quality indentured servants. The base is gonna be pretty crazy soon. So I spent the night watching Toast Malone learn to cook, experiencing Toast Malone learning to cook firsthand when he decided to cook me. Ow! Well, that was hot. And forging some metal tools. Because on day 11, Chill Bill was now in the starting lineup. And after making him a saddle, it was time to test his combat skills on some lowly peasants. Yeah, this dude's a menace. Okay, I think my team's good enough for the boss fight now. And it definitely was. I just wanted to make the Palsphere workbench first. So I cooked up some metal, commanded my servants to build it for me. And when I'm back from the tower, I just needed some metal to make the Megaspheres, and I can catch some even more qualified employees. But you'll see that soon, because right now, it was time for the main event. The Rain Syndicate Tower, to take on Zoe and her creepy unpaid intern named Grisbolt. Let's do this. And just like that, handsome Squidward has come out on top. Literally. Because the game teleported me on top of the tower. Bro, why is my face so scary? But anyways, the boss fight gives ancient technology points. And I use these ones to get the egg incubator, a hip lantern for dungeons, and this PAL essence condenser. Which is kind of weird, but you'll see what that is soon. I kind of want to catch a Grizzbolt. But anyways, day 11 was coming to an end. And I decided to finish off the day by jumping off the top of a skyscraper, air frying an entire campground full of degenerates, and rescuing this Arsox, marking PAL number 28 out of 204. But it was now day 12. Yeah, I didn't even sleep because I was busy spraying fire onto some thugs last night. And I was exploring a bit to the northeast, and that's where I met this fella. Hello, sir. Apparently, his elephant is very sick, and he wants $5,000 for medical bills. Ah. So you're American. I decided to pay the guy, and it actually did level me up, but I'm not sure that it was worth it. He didn't even give me anything. He just said he owes me a favor. But I continued on, where I found this fire monkey that murdered Venison Diesel, but I enslaved him, so it's all good. Harambe Jr. marks PAL number 28 out of 204. And by the way, these B variants, like the Ignis variant of the Tansy, well, I am trying to catch all of them. I'm trying to catch everything. But for the counter out of 204, I just want to catch one of each type of PAL. And that number was increasing pretty fast today. Because as I explored, I gave a job to the Nightwing named Hulk Hogan, showing this basic Harambe what the inside of a PAL sphere looks like, inducting a Celeray named Raymond into a cult of unpaid labor, and throwing a PAL sphere as hard as I can at a seahorse's forehead. And yeah, that marks PAL number 33 out of 204. And I also found this police officer on the beach who wanted to share some information with me. Hey, Bo, you see that huge structure towering over the ocean? Well, no, but now that you mention it, yes, that be a Syndicate oil rig. It's a dangerous place, so make sure to stay away from it. Yeah, thanks, man. I'll go check it out. Ironically, that made me really want to check out the Syndicate oil rig. But I also wanted to enslave this police officer because I have no impulse control. So I shot him in the retina with a crossbow. Instant 5-star wanted level, by the way. And the cops were after me. But at this point, I didn't care. I was locked in on this authority-having man. And I used my Ultra Ball that I got from the boss fight while hiding behind a rock so I don't get publicly executed in the streets. 30% chance, come on, man. And then I got him. Oh, it actually worked. So with a deputy sheriff in my pocket, I tried to run away up these rocks. Because just like in real life, if the cops can't see your face for more than 10 seconds, they forget the whole thing ever happened. Oh, they're over there swimming, bro. But luckily, I managed to stay out of the line of sight for about 12 seconds. And I got away with my crimes. There's no way they'll remember this face. But anyways, before I headed back to turn in the quest, there was a world boss here that I really wanted to fight. And that man is very large. The obese penguin has been defeated, but I kind of forgot that I could catch the dude, and I really wanted to do that, so I'm gonna have to come back later when he respawns. Anyways, it was time to talk to the village chief about how I murdered Zoe. So I fast traveled back, and I found this PAL research guide that gives me a reward for every 10 PALs I catch. So I turned in the first 3 quests, because I'm at 33, and I got some free XP and skill points, which is pretty cool. But now, it was time to speak with the chief. And when I told him what happened, that man was flabbergasted. Wait. You killed Zoe? I thought you were just gonna talk to her. Oh, yeah, you wanted me to talk to her about the giant tree. Sorry about that, man. She was like riding this creepy teddy bear that wouldn't stop smiling and trying to electrocute me. And then I used Bernie Sanders as a flamethrower and then she died.
I'm so damn confused.
So on day 13, I headed back to the tower to meet up with a very angry girl. You think it's okay to beat someone down and steal their stuff? Legally, I'd rather not answer that. We came to the agreement that I could keep all the stuff I stole from her yesterday. Or at least I decided that. Whatever, just get out of here already. But from that conversation, I learned that there are 8 total key spheres, and I have 1. Thanks to Zoe. The other 7 are in towers as well, and they're used to access the giant tree over there. This map just keeps getting bigger. But at this point, I was running really low on megaspheres. So I headed back to my penthouse, punched a few boulders, And while that was cooking up, I had just enough of these ancient parts to make 2 egg incubators. Just enough to incubate my electric and large common egg that I stole from some dire wolves. It's gonna take 15 minutes. That's shorter than it used to be, right? And I also decided to add Lieutenant Dan here to my party, mainly because he has an assault rifle and it's kind of cool. But at this point, I really needed more pals to keep up this base, meaning I needed to level up. So I spent the rest of the day doing some base stuff, building a wheat field. The electric egg was another jolt hog, by the way. Building a mill and a cooking pot. Bro, the penguin can get a rocket launcher? And finally, I made a saddle for the mailman hater. And now I'm completely out of leather to make any more saddles. Wait, can you even farm that at base? I think I have to go out and kill things. I'm gonna need a lot of leather for other saddles. So I spent the entire night farming some leather by executing unsuspecting victims in their sleep. And I also kidnapped this depressed young man. Depresso. Oh, he's so sad. 35 out of 204, by the way. But on day 14, I returned to my humble abode, and this large egg hatched another one of Vanessa and Diesel's co-workers. But anyways, the reason I farmed all that leather was to make a saddle for Hulk Hogan, because with a flyer on my team to get around the map, this 11 roast pig that I cooked from the family of Chris P. Bacon, and these 39 megaspheres that my reformed and unpaid thug is crafting right now against his will, it was time to finally start exploring outside of the first region and check out the second tower. Also, I really want to know what this is. And I'm super excited for this, but I'm also kind of scared because I know they're going to be super high level. So I spent the rest of day 14 selling some stuff on the black market, and when my indentured thug finally finished crafting my megaspheres, it was time to explore. I wanted to start with the bottom left island because it looks pretty interesting. So I headed down to this beach where I found this. Break the sealing stone and the path shall open. Is this the sealing stone? Wow. Well, that was easy. I was expecting this to be a teleporter to the island, but it just gave me some schematics for crafting. So I had to convince Hulk Hogan to fly us across the ocean, and when I made it to this giant force field looking wall, well, it let me pass right through. Wildlife Sanctuary number 1. Okay, this is where the rare pals are, right? This is indeed where the rare pals are. And when I made it inside, the first thing I did was chop down an ancient tree that has been living for many, many years inside a wildlife sanctuary. Yeah, chopping that down is probably illegal. But it did give me this ancient bark, and I have no idea what that is, but 15 of it weighs 75 pounds. But anyways, there were a ton of new species here for me to enslave. I mean, hire. And the first applicant was this flower with legs. Everyone here was a super high level though, and my strategy was to just fly on Hulk Hogan, alternating his ranged attack and my crossbow, and that worked pretty well for me, but it didn't work well for Hulk Hogan because that brother's no longer with us. Either way though, the capture chance was about 40% with megaspheres, and I got him on the 3rd try. Nice. And that was pretty easy. But next up was this giant green dude that looked like Shrek, if Shrek was a Minotaur. And I was trying to use Chill Bill to just 1v1 him and lower his health because I didn't expect him to just punch me one time and kill me, right? That would be overpowered. But then, well, that's exactly what happened. Oh, dude, well, that was unfair. It took me like 5 minutes to make it back because I had to swim across the ocean. But after I looted another handsome corpse, it was already nighttime, and everyone was asleep. So I climbed up on top of this rock, and since this dude is a grass type, I commanded Bernie Sanders to commit arson on him while he sleeps. It was actually really effective. Oh, he's getting destroyed. It didn't take long to get him super low health, and 2 Palsphere fails later, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Let's go. I also used this same strategy to catch this dragon-looking dude. And it took 4 megaballs, by the way. And on this Club Penguin veteran. Anyways, the 4 new unpaid interns from the Sanctuary mark pals number 36, 37, 38, and 39 out of 204. And after trying to leave the Sanctuary and then getting gunned down by a drone because I committed like 8 crimes in the Sanctuary. Okay, seriously? Well, it was day 16, and eventually I got my stuff back. I also caught this little pink dude from the starter beach because I guess I've missed him before. And I wanted to check out the other island on this side of the map. So I held up on my left joystick and stared at Hulk Hogan for 5 minutes. And then when I arrived, I instantly regretted my life choices. This Blastoise looking dude was level 35, and he almost one-shot Hulk Hogan. But luckily I can fly and he can't. What a loser. So I flew up to this fast travel point to get away from him and ran like a coward. That was so close, man. Because back at my plantation, base, I was level 20. So I attended a training course on how to make gigaspheres, a weapons workbench, and how to train your dragon. He's gonna be a huge upgrade over Hulk Hogan. But before I make any of that, I wanted to actually explore. You know, the areas that weren't way above my level, and it was time to find this second tower. Now, the first thing I saw after fast traveling up here was this level 10 human named Scoot. And apparently he's committed the worst crime imaginable. He's a dine and dasher? Bro really is evil. So to punish his crimes, I shot a bird missile at his shoulder blade and then gave him a job that gets no paid time off. That'll show him. But anyways, I ended up spending the night just flying around, grabbing some fast travel points, and catching this oversized werewolf. And catching this duck with a borderline inappropriate name. Okay, whoever named this man knew exactly what they were doing. But he marks pal number 42 out of 204. Okay, I'm actually on pace for the pals, but I'm behind with the boss fights. I really need to get these quests going. So on day 17, after catching this pair of conjoined twins, 43 out of 204 by the way, I publicly decapitated a couple thugs. I looted their supply drop, and I caught some cotton candy. Its entire body is 18,000 times sweeter than sugar. Ooh. But at this point, I was venturing into the higher level area, and this is where things get good. First up, I found the Mud. I think I pronounced that right. Now, his IQ was below room temperature, but when the dude started blowing bubbles, well, the bubbles had aimbot. Dodging them things required skills I do not possess, and I had to put Hulk Hogan back in his pal sphere because the dude almost died to a bubble. But after some technical difficulties, I convinced the dude to join my cult of unpaid labor. And next up was this Brawn Cherry, who was level 36. 16 damage?
Imagine shooting a man, and he stands there, unfazed.
Yeah, never mind. I decided to catch this Pofult instead. I'm gonna name him Doug the Pug. 46 out of 204. At this point, I was almost there to the tower, but I found this boss fight for a samurai dude, and I could see a giant thug trap house over there with an overweight buffoon on top. That man is not natty. I wanted to try and raid that base, but I also wanted to do this world boss fight. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna go for it. Wish me luck. Okay, I think I need a water type for this. Why can he do that? Oh no, I had it, man. Well, that didn't work. Honestly, it was a bit of a skill issue, but I also only brought one good water pal to the firefight. And I was about to heal up Club Penguin and get a better team ready. But then, out of nowhere, I got invaded by a squadron of thugs. Oh, we're being attacked. Honestly, getting raided wasn't that bad though, because my entire team of consensual employees stopped working to fight back. And with the help of Chill Bill, the first wave was victorious. And this big green dude didn't even let the attackers get near my base. So yeah. Rest in peace to the thugs. Also, I just hatched this Cinnamoth from a Verdant egg. But anyways, I was 0-3 against the Samurai Man, and I cannot let him win. So I redid my army and made a water and neutral team. It's time for round 4. Club Penguin was amazing for this fight. I mean, the dude was freezing him, his attacks were highly effective, and he was getting messed up. But the problem, however, is that no matter how easy it seemed, if I forget to dodge one time when the dude just teleports right in front of me, I instantly get decapitated by Jackie Chan. Oh, come on, man. Okay then. But anyways, I wasn't giving up. And with Club Penguin in the Shadow Realm, I had 4 party members with neutral and water affinities left. And let's just say he murdered them one by one until not a single one of my guys was left. Bro showed absolutely no mercy. And at this point, I was also out of ammo. Yeah, it wasn't a good day for handsome Squidward, but I did have one thing left, an Ultra Ball. So I wound that thing up, threw it at that man's Asian forehead. It didn't work, but it was a 30% chance, and 4 Ultra Balls later, the emotional damage was finally worth it. Oh, finally. Okay, man, that was insane. This man marks pound number 47 out of 204. And he's also really good at base stuff. So for now, this is the team we're going with. But anyways, day 18 was coming to an end. And after making some more arrows for my crossbow and queuing up this heavyweight module that increases my capture chance, I became unconscious. Because it was day 19, and Jackie Chan was chopping down trees with a katana. Bro's farming aura right now. But I wanted to take on the second boss tower. I just needed a couple upgrades first. So I spent the day farming a ton of metal using my pickaxe, and using Sloppy Joe's face. And at this point, I've farmed so much leather that my PAL deck is starting to look like a missing persons list. But while I was just running around skinning people, I found the King Paka. And bro, this dude wasn't on my 600-pound life. He was on my 6,000-pound life. Unfortunately, I wanted him. So Hulk Hogan and I spent the next 7 business days performing a series of hit and run. And this took forever. But eventually Chill Bill came in and lowered his body fat percentage just enough to fit this oversized alpaca inside a PAL sphere. And with my newest employee successfully compressed into a ball, I headed over to this merchant at the small settlement and sold him some precious entrails. Did I just participate in organ harvesting? I'm sure it's fine. Back at the base, all that metal had finally finished smelting, and I was now level 21. And apparently, Mr. King Paka is supposed to sleep on one of those somehow. Good luck, guys. But with the materials I've gathered, I could finally start preparing for the tower. First, I crafted myself some metal armor, and then I built a weapons workbench. Because apparently giving me firearms was the next logical step in this world's progression. And of course, I finally made the saddle for my Elphadram. Oh, wait. I still need to name this guy. This man was a dragon, so naturally, I named him Doug. And if you already know why I named my dragon Doug, then you're a true subscriber. But at this point, I had developed a slight problem. I was running out of metal approximately every 31 seconds. And having to come out here and farm this myself when I have like 48 indentured servants back home, it kind of defeats the entire purpose of being the tyrannical dictator that I worked so hard to be. Okay, I need a second base next to a bunch of metal rocks so I never have to do this again. But before expanding my industrial empire, I wanted to clear the second tower. So I got even more metal, made a better shield, and then I took Doug for a test drive. All right, Doug, let's see how good you are at killing people. Oh, Doug was an absolute menace to society. But unfortunately, I was still waiting for like half of the Industrial Revolution to finish crafting back at my base. And I was trying to sit here and finish crafting the musket myself because I kind of wanted it. But handsome Squidward over here is crafting the thing slower than an elderly lamb ball with no legs that isn't alive. Alright, I need some help. Luckily, Toast Malone was nearby and he was enjoying a nice peaceful dinner. So naturally, I yoinked him away from it and threw him directly at a crafting table. And it did work for about 3 seconds. And then the dude just walked away.
Why are you running?
Because apparently he's depressed. Brother, you've worked for 3 seconds. You know who's gonna be depressed? Me, if I don't have a musket by tomorrow morning. This was gonna take a while. So in the meantime, I queued up a grappling hook and about 15 gigaspheres. And while my sweatshop was busy manufacturing those, I decided to kill some time with a dungeon. Now, this dungeon was extremely low level. It was mostly just sleep paralysis demons and a bunch of hoodlums who appear to be deathly allergic to sunlight. So naturally, I began exterminating everything in sight. But I did manage to find some new pals, like this Cremus boss, who I kidnapped while Doug eviscerated his entire family. Yeah, I'm over here trying to hire the guy while Doug's trying to give him a tragic backstory. And I also found this Toucan, who was apparently being held prisoner in someone's basement. And now he's gonna be doing forced labor in my basement. Also, I found this large ice egg. But first I had to finish the dungeon, and the final room was filled with even more Cremus. Keyword being was. Because those brothers no longer exist. But for all my heroic efforts, I got some loot and a few technology points. So I'd say that was almost productive. But anyways, by the time I got back, the musket only needed a few more minutes to craft. So I did that. Threw the ice egg in the incubator, which that actually doesn't even make sense, but okay. And then I had a visitor who was casually traveling the countryside, illegally selling unpaid interns on the black market. Bro, that is the worst deal I have ever seen in my entire life. I was so insulted by this offer that I decided to buy him instead. It worked. There was, however, one tiny detail that I hadn't considered. I just committed a felony. Apparently, police take shooting wandering black market merchants in the face and then kidnapping them pretty seriously. And there was no way that my Amazon factory workers were winning this fight. So I did what any courageous leader would do. I ran. And a few minutes later, well, let's just say that it's a good thing the Galapagos criminal justice system has the attention span of a goldfish. And now I'm an upstanding citizen. But anyways, everything was finally ready for the second tower. So I started making my way, unlocking some fast travel points along the way, and discovering a bunch of new pals that were way higher level than anything I'd been fighting before. What is that? But either way, I continued on. And now that I was level 24, I was unlocking some new engrams. Ore mining site. Okay. Wait, these did not exist when the game first came out, did they? And that was the first thing I was going to do after this tower. But anyways, I was trying to grab all the fast travel points along the way, so I was going up this mountain, and that's when I found another behemoth. Level 29. Okay, I want to capture that guy. Now, the mammoth is a grass type pal, meaning he's weak to fire. So after I failed at 1v1ing him with Doug for like 5 minutes, well, Doug absolutely annihilated this univolt, and I captured him. And then I summoned Bernie Sanders. This man is my MVP, bro. And when his very large health bar was low enough, well, he broke free from my Pokeball advances, and then he did it 4 times. Is there like a word for that? Like twice, thrice, like a 4th time? I don't know, but I caught the guy. And since his wife was over here trying to aggro me, I decided to be a good Samaritan and let Bernie Sanders cook her alive and enslave her as well. So Usain Bolt and Morgan Freeman mark pals number 51 and 52 out of 204. My hunt for new unpaid interns didn't end there though, because first of all, I found this guy in the middle of the night. Crowmeda? Is that you? And then the next morning, I found this distinguished gentleman named Eucrates. And with a name like Eucrates, I don't even want to rename this guy. But next up was Hangyu. Hangyu?
What?
And apparently I saw that man and immediately thought, yeah, I want that guy in my house. And that's how I befriended a psychopath. But anyways, there were 2 more pals that I found along the way, and they both looked like a melted scoop of ice cream. First, we had Sweepa. That brother was plus sized. And then we had Sweet, for when you're counting calories and you only want a small scoop. And with these guys added, we have pals number 53, 54, 55, 56, and 57 out of 204. And now it was finally time for the main event. And by main event, I mean talking to this bamboo looking dude. Apparently this guy has some suspicions about the Free Pal Alliance. And of course he's too lazy to stand up from that chair and do it himself. So naturally, I have to do all the work. Typical NPC behavior. So after catching this Gale wing, I ran halfway across the universe, looked at a couple things on the ground, and sprinted all the way back, just for the dude to tell me that I had to run all the way over there again. Bro, I did not sign up to do DoorDash today. But over at the quest marker, I finally found Lily's hideout, the founder of the Free Pal Alliance. The backstory is that apparently Lily lost all faith in humanity after one of her co-workers had started selling pals on the black market. Wow, that's horrible. I would never do something like that. And apparently Lily abandoned the group and decided to get revenge on the world, which seems like a slight overreaction to be honest. But I also found this huge verdant egg next to her house, and that was pretty cool. So after running halfway across the country again, just to report everything back to sitting in the chair man over here, well, I told him everything that I had just discovered, and he told me that Lily needed my help. So now my new objective is to defeat her. Wait. What? Hey, this woman is clearly going through a difficult time. Could you maybe help her? I must defeat her. Well, I guess it's time for another boss fight. I just needed to make a quick pit stop at base real quick. So I headed north to grab some fast travel points, and I ended up discovering an entirely new region. Wait, why is everything here such a low level? It was like some kind of second starter zone. And I managed to catch the boss version of Hulk Hogan pretty easy and this level 6 Ruby. But even though all this stuff was low level, the island to the east, well, it was on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. First of all, I talked to this research bro, and he yapped for a few minutes, but long story short, he wants me to join this boss battle. You know, the one where the boss is level 70? Yeah, that's not happening, bro. Back at my humble abode, my inventory was 100% full. So I spent some time organizing stuff, incubating the eggs, and checking out the new pals. Wait, you're telling me that Morgan Freeman is a dainty eater? This guy Yeah, someone's lying on their resume. Okay, well, compared to that, maybe he is. Anyways, I farmed some metal for the very last time. At least that's what I told myself. Because I had finally unlocked something revolutionary. The ore mining site. Does anyone else take like 5 minutes to place down structures? Like, if it's not perfectly parallel and on the same plane as the other thing, it just completely bothers me. But yeah, that looks pretty good. I wanted to make sure that this station was going 24/7. No unpaid breaks. Which means I need my best employee on the mine. Yeah, if you guys couldn't tell, Squidward's been hitting the gym. But anyways, it was time to take on Lily in the second tower. So on day 23, I fast traveled to do just that. But then 12 seconds later, I got kind of distracted. Ooh, I need to catch that guy. Now, in my defense, Vanworms are really strong flyers. In fact, the dude decapitated Doug and almost killed my fat alpaca too. But I managed to get him low, and just like that, Hot Wing marks PAL number 61 out of 240. And this dude is actually insane. Because after using Chill Bill to make it to the Volcano fast travel point, I headed home and started healing Doug. Recruited a new unpaid intern 2 seconds after she was born, and forced her to craft a saddle for this man. And I'm really glad that I did. Because Lily's PAL was actually a grass type. And you'll see what I mean very soon. Because ladies and gentle pals, grab your popcorn and sit back. It's time to defeat the leader of the Free PAL Alliance. And just like that, 2 out of 8 towers have been conquered. And my next quest had objectives on 3 different regions that I've never explored before. So on day 25, after being traumatized at the sight of Sloppy Joe grazing in the ranch, he just started getting freaky and then created some high quality PAL oil. And apparently Morgan Freeman has been helping out around the farm too. But anyways, I had a much bigger problem. I needed metal. Because despite having an entire mining operation back at base, well, it only gives me like 1 metal every 4 business days. And that's kind of unfortunate when every single recipe in this game requires the steel production of a small country. I needed to take some drastic measures. So I spent the day searching the map until I found this area southwest of the village chief. Now this is what I'm talking about. So I slapped down my second PAL box and officially established sweatshop number 2. I spent the next hour just setting up all the basic infrastructure that my workers would need to survive, and I put a bunch of storage boxes really close to the metal rocks, that way they didn't have to travel too far to deposit. I also set up some refining forges to cook, a mine, some more beds for my subjects, and some berry plantations so they don't die. Yeah, employees don't perform very well when they starve. And yeah, capitalism. It's beautiful, isn't it? Dude, it's so funny seeing these ginormous pals on the bed. Like, this man decided that he had 1 cheek on the mattress and that was good enough. So on day 27, after witnessing 2 master chefs have an iron ingot cook-off, I permanently assigned Morgan Freeman to the iron ore since he has level 4 mining. Bro, what are you mining right now? Somehow the dude was mining this other rock from 20 foot away. But anyways, I had 142 metal. So I farmed a bit more and made a sphere assembly line for my Amazon factory workers. And now I just need to power it. I need to harvest some electric kidneys. So I went to the library to research this Sparkit. Totally not Pikachu, by the way. And you can see the regions that different pals spawn in on this screen right here. So I spent the next few minutes doing this. Thank you for your donation. And I just needed 10, so I used my Vanworm to give some electroshock therapy to a few more peasants. And a few more thugs. And before heading home, I did a little bit more exploring. Because across the water, I found a house that someone burnt down. With a Braloha outside who I incapacitated. His name is Lebronto James, by the way. And inside was this creepy old man. Hey, how's it going, man? Please don't murder me. This guy was selling outfits for furries. And look, if I was gonna be a furry, now I'm not, okay? But if I was, I wouldn't choose a doom mud. But anyways, back at base, I had enough metal and electric organs to make a power generator. So I used a daisy here to generate some electricity, and I gaslit Toast Malone into crafting me some hyperspheres. Because even though I had 2 behemoths stomping on rocks all day, the metal is still farming way too slow. So I made my way back to the island in the south where the Turtle Bros live, and I found this very large man, Bowser himself. Now, this man was level 37, so I wasn't sure how strong he'd be, but I managed to dodge all of his attacks from the sky while slowly dealing some damage. Okay, well this is not gonna work. And I even tried letting my pals 1v1 him, but the dude just kept summoning a laser beam and then blasting them into the 4th dimension. And then a few minutes later, while I was hiding behind the rock, this happened. What? Dude, he shot me through the wall. This was clearly not gonna work. So after turning in the quest, I was getting closer to the snow and another pal sanctuary. So I spent the rest of day 28 crafting some cold-resistant armor so I don't get hypothermia, harvesting my neighbor's organs, skinning some people, and making some flame-resistant armor as well. Because on day 29, after doing some stuff around base, it was time to explore the volcano. Wait. Why is it still too hot? Apparently Hot Wings here gives off heat, but when I summoned Doug instead, well, it was still hotter than a summer in Florida, but I was no longer evaporating. Oh, I guess I just can't use Hot Wings here. So I started exploring, and after farming some sulfur and grabbing this egg, I made my way down the mountain. Oh, that's the new biome, like the city in the clouds or whatever. And you'll see that later when I actually figure out how to get up there. But moving along, I found a golden moron on the beach. Mud Guild. He was completely covered in gold, and I've never seen this before, but after commanding Doug to strike fear into his heart, I kidnapped that man. And apparently he can graze in the ranch and drop gold coins for me. Where those coins come from though, I do not want to know. But anyways, I found this little fisherman's village on the coast. And despite the police officer being very bad at his job, I mean the dude's name was literally PDIF Slacker, the merchants here were pretty useless as well. But he did have a quest. Apparently the police here wanted to warn me about the Brothers of the Eternal Pyre. And from now on, I'm just gonna call them the Dark Brotherhood. The Dark Brotherhood is allegedly going around challenging civilians to a street fight, and he's mad about that for some reason. So I spoke to this alcoholic who had a run-in with a brother the other day. There I was, just hauling some kindling when he comes up to me saying, "You look like a dude who gets it. Come on, let's pump it up." So you just said no and he walked away? I'm sorry, but I don't see the issue here, bro. I had to fly all the way up this mountain, talk to another witness, and report back. But when I did that, the police officer then ordered me to kick his butt. Okay, man, so let me get this straight. You, a level 45, very large, sensitive-nosed man, apparently, with an assault rifle, want me, a tiny blue man that happens to be handsome, to kick his butt. So, yeah, I explored the island a bit, and then Hot Wings got eviscerated while I was leaving. Okay, really? But it was now day 30, and my new quest was to defeat Axel in the Dark Brotherhood Tower. So I spent the next 30 minutes getting some charcoal, hatching some eggs, Gobfen Ignis, and cooking even more charcoal and metal at the second sweatshop to queue up some gunpowder and make a production assembly line at base. Because I was ready to fight the Dark Brotherhood. I just needed some more ammo and this Giga Shield so I don't die in one shot again. And I just needed ancient civilization parts to make that. So I tried to place this PAL expedition thing, but it was larger than my entire house. How am I supposed to fit this in my base? But I did manage to place it like on the edge here where it was kind of hanging out the back. And now I can run some expeditions. So this is kind of a way to like AFK farm where you send all your useless members of society into frontline combat for your own personal gain. Kind of like most governments. But in 30 minutes, all these fine gentlemen will return home, hopefully alive, and I'll get a bunch of loot. So on day 31, while I was waiting around, I just flew around the areas I've already been, unlocking the rest of the fast travel points, and capturing some new pals, including Hannah Brontana, an Eskimo, a plant-like barista, a storage box that sprinted away from me,
Why are you running?
a bee that was exploding for 9999999 damage, and a cattle rancher named Lasso that I spent way too many hyperspheres on. Which brings our total to 69 out of 204 pals. And then I found someone's house. Whoa, buddy, put down the pal sphere. I'm not a pal. The man inside was obsessed with his pet Depresso, and now he has become a depressed furry. You know what would be fun? If I made you one as well. And if I bring him 20 high quality cloth and 100 venom glands, he can help me to enter depression as well. Pretty good deal, I'm not gonna lie. And jokes aside, I actually kind of like his outfit, so I might do that later. But anyways, it was day 32, and the expedition was complete. Also, the base leveled up twice from building that, so I had to reassign all the unpaid interns to be more efficient. But we're looking really good now. So after wasting the rest of the day raiding a thug house and finding a thug that was immune to physics,
Yes, science!
I robbed at gunpoint and then publicly executed a thug inside his living room. And I spent the rest of the day exploring a bit more, where I caught a couple relatives of Morgan Treeman for the base, found some Relaxaurus Luxes who were level 30, well, I'm not going over there, and got into a street fight with an oversized hoodlum named Grill. But at this point, I really needed the ancient civilization parts. And you get those from dungeons or from world bosses. And this whole time I was looking for a dungeon, but I decided to just go for some world bosses instead because that sounded easier. And that's where I messed up. Because this pink, freaky looking tarantula was level 35. And even though the fight started out okay, well, 30 seconds in, Hot Wings got deleted. And when I tried to run away, so did I. But on day 23, I finished exploring where I fought this walking houseplant, and grass types are super easy for me because fire beats grass, and Bernie Sanders is insane for some reason. But I got 5 ancient civilization parts from that. And then Doug had some beef with his uncle named Douglas, and I got 5 civilization parts from that. And after Morgan Treeman slayed a giant unicorn for 5 more, I caught a fire mushroom and then watched a 600-pound alpaca sit on top of an Arsox. So yeah, it was a pretty eventful day. But anyways, I returned to my humble abode, and I unlocked a ton of knowledge inside my brain, including ultraspheres, a better assembly line, and stuff to build my own PC. And after I spent the night doing some base stuff, I used the ancient civilization parts to finally make the Giga Shield. Because on day 34, it was time for Handsome Squidward to infiltrate the Dark Brotherhood. And I can't use grass pals like Morgan Treeman because I'm assuming that the Brothers of Eternal Fire, they like fire. I was wrong about that, by the way, but that's what I thought it was gonna be. So I tried to use water types, and I didn't have that many, just Club Penguin and Golden Sloppy Joe here. But with this army here, I'm at least neutral with everyone. And now, ladies and gentle pals, it's time to fight some fire. Now, the volcano was hot, and not in a good way. I can't use Hot Wings. And I found this one area that would be an insanely cool base location, but maybe I'll do that later. But after forcing Doug to carry me up Mount Everest, I unlocked the fast travel point, and I stepped inside the Tower of Eternal Pyre. Okay, so that brother was definitely not a fire type. Axel had an electric dragon type, apparently. But either way, we won. And I now had 3 out of 8 key spheres. I just leveled up twice from that, bro. And there were like 4 random fire regs over here, so I kidnapped them. And then I turned in my quest. My dude, you're gonna be the talk of the town. The fourth boss tower was over in the desert, and now I've got a lot of work to do. Okay, I need refined ingots for this armor. Refined metal ingots are made in the advanced forge, and they require coal. So my other metal base, it's probably gonna have to move. But before I do that, I wanted to find the next tower. It was a few light years away, so I spent day 35 cosplaying as Dora the Explorer and catching a few useless members of our society. Unpaid interns number 70 and 71 out of 204. And then I came across a suspicious looking rock. Wait, what is this? Pure quartz. Quartz is used to make some advanced materials that I'm not ready for yet. But over past that was the next area. And this is where things started to get out of hand. Because the first thing I saw was a giant monkey. I murdered him with a giant ball of antimatter, of course. But then after committing arson and kidnapping his brother, well, I saw some beacons in the sky. And this is important for later, because over by the hill was another giant monkey, and he was angry, so we're gonna call him Furious George. I really wanted to enslave Furious George here, so I shot a giant plasma ball into his kneecap, and everything was going great. But then the beacon showed up. Oh no. I tried to run, but when I summoned Doug, he was more excited about being a lumberjack than he was about staying alive. Doug is eager to help with the logging. Bro, this is not the time for that. Eventually, I summoned Bernie, who for some reason is still amazing, even though he's like a starter zone pal. Why is this dude so good at everything? And I really wanted to catch this man. But while I was hiding behind this hill like a coward, well, apparently everyone in this game can shoot through walls. What? Why does this keep happening to me? Now, luckily, I respawned about 12 foot away from my corpse. But I also spawned about 12 foot away from a man that wants to tase me. Dude, leave me alone, bro. And it took a hot minute, but eventually I got away from the heathens. I started roasting Furious George, and I realized that you can't catch him. So instead, I executed him, and he dropped a predator core and a giant pal soul from that. Thanks for your soul, I guess. But as the sun rose over the island on day 36, I found a few more pals. And it might be the level here or something, but literally everyone wants to kill me. But one of the pals was this Hell Zephyr, and he's a super strong flyer. So I used my musket to lower his health while dodging insects like I'm Coyote Peterson. I threw a Pokeball down his esophagus and had a 40% chance. Come on, man. Nice. And now he's an indentured servant. But at this point, I was almost there. And to get to the desert, you have to cross the snow for some reason. And I didn't stay here long because I was just passing through, but I managed to watch a dragon fighting a member of Coldplay. So I saved him by abducting him into unpaid labor. And I also recruited Rudolph here by using Bernie Sanders to threaten his life and refusing to give him a paycheck. Welcome to the family, son. And yeah, that's all I did in the snow. But the desert was just up ahead. So after catching this serpent, and absolutely spamming Megaspheres because that's all I had left. I actually caught this Relaxaurus, by the way. Pals number 74, 75, 76, and 77 out of 204 have been added to my cult of unpaid labor. But anyways, we made it. That dude is level 47. And this place was kind of sketchy. So I pretty much just avoided all social contact until I reached my destination, just like in real life. But my destination wasn't the quest. It was the tower. Because in this desert, there's a little village, there's a sanctuary over there, there's freezing cold at night, apparently, and I had to switch my armor, and of course, there's the police tower. Wait, I have to fight the cops? What is this, GTA 6? But the police tower was level 40, and so was everybody else in this area, so I headed back to base and did some reorganizing for a while, until I realized that I low-key forgot to feed Doug for the last, 5 days.
Please, sir, I want some more.
But anyways, the rest of day 37 was just me doing some chores around base, but I did make 30 more hyperspheres, and since the metal sweatshop was super behind on production, I queued up like 400 metal to be cooked up in the forges, made a weapons assembly line because I'm American, and hatched a few new interns. Ooh, a Dig Toys, I need him for metal. And I also hatched a Pyron who has level 4 cooking. The Dig Toys is one of the best metal farmers in the game, and since I need refined metal ingots now, well, I think it's time to move the second sweatshop. That brother is ginormous. So on day 38, I queued up some of these cryo things in the production line, and I assigned Mr. Ruby here to the ranch, because we're going to be farming his organs, apparently. And yeah, that might be slightly unethical, but I need them for the improved furnace. And it was now time to find the new base location. So I asked my best friend for some advice. Google search. Yeah, I don't have many friends. And I found 4 different options. So let me know in the comments which one you guys would pick. The first option was base number 1. Base number 1 is on prime real estate at the top of the hill, safe from any predators, and it even includes a roommate. You could be roommates with Kyle, a giant beetle that likes to murder people in their sleep. He was decreasing the property value, so I enslaved Kyle. Oh, he has level 5 transport. But with several metal and coal nodes scattered around, this gated community on the hill is perfect for starting a family. At least if your family is made of metal. What is this? Base number 2 is a super flat landscape with the perfect combination of metal, quartz, and giant pandas. It took 4 tries to catch that, man. But base number 2 does not have coal, which brings us to base number 3. Okay, never mind. The other spots I saw online are just terrible. And after this grintail disintegrated my boy Doug, I showed him what my pal sphere looks like from the inside. And since both of my flyers were incapacitated now, I had to literally walk on foot halfway across the region, while this psychotic bee was harassing me the whole time. Dude, leave me alone. But it was now day 39, and I was ready to move the factory. The reason I'm doing this is because I can only have 2 bases at a time until I level up the base more. So yeah, I had to spend like 15 minutes just moving everything very slowly because it weighed 6,000 pounds. Wait a minute. I realized that without a PAL box, I can't fast travel. Wait, am I gonna have to walk all the way back to base? And just like that, it took 100 days to make it back to base. The end. Just kidding. I built a PAL box, I fast traveled, and I crip walked through my plantation to put everything inside the box. And then I dismantled it. Because now, ladies and gentle pals, it was time to expand the company.
I do it again.
I'm not even gonna question what's happening right now. And just like that, I was now level 40, and it was day 40. And I also had some refined ingots to make heat-resistant armor so I don't get too toasty during the desert fight. But it's gonna be a few business days before I have enough for the other stuff. Bro. Okay, so why are all these dudes just unconscious, right? And then this man is wide awake in the middle of the night doing a mukbang. Oh, and then he just fell asleep at the dinner table. Okay. But anyways, I had a lot of new engrams to unlock, like this grenade launcher for a panda bear and a ton of new saddles. But it was now day 41, and while I'm waiting on the ingots so I can make some better spheres and craft some machine guns, I decided to continue the main quest line. Now, the desert is still a little bit difficult, but I'm also level 40. So after wasting 10 Pokeballs on this turtle that will now farm metal on my plantation for the rest of his life, I found a little town in the middle of nowhere where a desert-dwelling man told me about some corrupt police officers and their leader, Marcus. With a menacing name like Marcus, it was time to investigate. So I entered the town that was filled with off-duty police officers, a wandering merchant that lied about having good items in stock. Okay, no offense, bro, but there's not a single thing in here that can be considered good, my man. And 2 civilians, who both seem to be very afraid of Marcus. And at this point, we all know what's going on here. These NPCs are too lazy to leave their living room, and they want handsome Squidward to run all around talking to people for them. So yeah, that's what I did. And on the way over to the evidence, I saw a giant box. Or at least that's what I thought it was. Yeah, I almost died that day. But anyways, the tunnel told me everything I needed to know. Because first of all, there was a criminal inside who was at large. And by at large, I mean the dude was pretty large. And he sold illegal pals on the black market. And I didn't have any of them, so I was honestly pretty interested. All right, stay right here, man. I don't have my wallet on me. I think I left my gold like in my base or something. But over in the back was apparently a very suspicious powdery substance. And I'm not gonna name what that was, but now I think I know who Marcus is, but then this happened. Wait, what? Bro, where did you come from? A police officer just spawned right next to me while I had a powdery substance in my hand. Would you believe me if I said it wasn't mine? And I'm not going to question why he immediately framed a handsome man named Squidward and not the 600-pound evil villain that's standing right next to a guillotine over there. But either way, I managed to talk myself out of the situation and get some more info. The officer stormed away. So yeah, even though for a minute there I thought I was being framed even though I did nothing wrong. Alright bro, I'll be back with your money. I'm an upstanding citizen, so I had nothing to worry about. But my next lead was at the local police station. And as I entered the front door, everything started making a lot more sense around here. Wait, this is the big station he was talking about? Bro, this is a bar. No wonder you guys have so much crime in this city. As I made my way through the alcoholic police headquarters, I found this police chief who was a self-proclaimed slacker. And it just kept getting worse. I've had enough work for one day, and there's a tall glass of beer waiting for me at the bar. The chief was not very much help, but I found a letter on his desk that told me everything I needed to know. And after that, I slightly considered enslaving the police chief, but he was level 50 and there's like 20 cops here, so I knew it was probably a bad idea. So instead, I opened every single cell door in the prison and I released multiple maximum security criminals right into the police chief's office. Okay, that was extremely entertaining. But on day 42, I returned back to the dude in the town, and he told me that Marcus was in the giant tower that looks just like the other 3 towers so far. What a surprise. And I was about to go through my pals and probably switch out my entire party soon, but I wanted to give this group of fellas one last run, just to see if they could do it. And long story short, well, they kinda can, because it's not that hard to dodge attacks in this game, but it only gives you 5 minutes to beat him. And I'm not gonna show the full fight, because what happened essentially was that he has 72,000 health, and I managed to do about 62,000 health before the time limit, but I was just way too slow, and yeah, I ran out of time. Oh man, I had that too. So after a quick trip back to base to withdraw my entire life savings, I paid a visit to my brand new buddy, and I spent every last dollar I've ever earned on 3 new employees: Gildra, Sekhmet, and Beacon, marking pals number 83, 84, and 85 out of 204. Okay, these guys look insane for production, man. So with my industrial empire finally producing something other than workplace violations, I queued up a bunch of polymer for some better gear, and while that was cooking, I made something even more important: Missandra's grenade launcher. Because apparently giving a giant panda access to explosives is an intended game mechanic, but the base was expanded. So I decided to name Sekhmet Cleocatra, and I named Gildra, I named him Microtransaction, because look at this dude. It looks like I need to enter my credit card information just to summon him. But while I was busy doing some base stuff, Cleocatra finished making the saddle for Missandra, and it was finally time to test out my new weapon of mass destruction. Oh, well that's one way to deal with deforestation. I named this man Weed Whacker. So with Weed Whacker and his artillery, Cleocatra, a microtransaction, some hot wings, Bernie Sanders, well, I had a pretty good army. And honestly, I felt like a completely new man. A somehow even more handsome man. I know, I didn't think it was possible either. But anyways, now that my military budget has officially surpassed the GDP of several small nations, I was finally ready to start exploring the high-level, dangerous parts of the map. But there was just one problem. I still have all of these missing areas, world bosses, and I have to take down that tower. And so on day 42, I set out to do one thing: complete this map. If it has a question mark, it's gonna have a bad afternoon. And it all started with Morgan Freeman's father. Oh, the obesity is hereditary. So after Mike Wazowski here took 20 PAL spheres to the noggin, the total amount of members in my unpaid labor cult was roughly 104 out of 204. And that's actually a lot. But all of that grinding had gotten me to level 53, which unlocks some pretty ridiculous stuff. Pal metal, Pal steel armor, ultimate spheres, a flamethrower, laser rifles, bro, I'm gonna look like a cyborg, and an item retrieval machine that lets me access all of the items in my base from one place. Okay, that sounds cool. And there was a bunch of Pal stuff as well, like this saddle for Wumpo Botan, and apparently I can strap a missile launcher to Relaxaurus. Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do.
Anyway, I gotta hurry and pick some sticks up and water the grass. Goodbye.
And this entire page of indentured servants are completely new members to my cult. So I spent the next hour with my girl Cleopatra crafting a bunch of materials to get stuff ready, turning my ingots into nails, reforming sulfur and venom glands into corrosive solvents, transforming my ice organs into cryogenic coolant, and after giving a couple more gentlemen full-time jobs as competitive eaters at the ranch, I made some carbon fiber, some cement, and finally upgraded my production line. And the sphere assembly line. Okay, I need some Pal metal for these. And now I can make so many new things in here. And this went on for a while, because there's so many little ingredients needed to make the big stuff. But long story short, I upgraded my weapons workbench, used all of the oil that I got from the thug house on this electric furnace at the second sweatshop, and queued up some Pal steel. Or I tried to, but I need some electricity for that. All right, buddy, make me some electric kidneys. And now it was time for my greatest challenge yet, resisting arrest. But I'm not gonna make the same mistake as I did last time. And to deal 72,000 damage to the Palapagos Police Department, I needed more firepower. So I made a semi-automatic shotgun to use against a police officer. By the way, I would not recommend trying this at home. I walked straight up to his front door, and I instantly got a 5-star wanted level. And just like that, I used 40 shotgun shells, but I also impaled a police officer named Marcus and secured the Orb of Greed, which means I have 4 out of 8 orbs, and I'm halfway to seeing what type of atrocities are behind that tree. So on day 51, I headed back to turn in my quest, and apparently this brother now thinks Handsome Squidward is his hero, because I defeated a police officer. And now that I have a brand new subscriber, I spent the rest of the day exploring the desert, where I found a giant scorpion. I then abducted him and named him Leonardo da Vinci. And then I found something even better. The level 50 Tetroys, who is basically just a giant turtle that looks like he spends his free time playing Tetris. I was super scared of this guy at first, because the dude is ginormous, but he also has the reaction time of a visually impaired sloth. So I just kind of shot some lasers into his square elbows, and then when he tried to attack, I just walked to left. And when he was about to take his last breath, I enslaved him. Or at least I tried to. Apparently my hyperspheres are not capable of catching such a large Tetris-playing specimen, so I just sent him to the Shadow Realm instead. But anyways, the desert was pretty big, and I really needed some better Pal spheres. Oh, bro, last time I played this game on launch, those dudes killed me like 20 times. Oh, there's a Pal Sanctuary here too. But I really needed some ultimate spheres if I wanted to catch any of these guys. So I made an electric generator at the second sweatshop, and with Electric Boogaloo here powering the generator, Unpaid business was booming. There was just one small problem, because even with a level 5 cook, like Garfield over here, it's gonna take approximately 3 decades to make enough Pal steel. So I'll let that man cook. Because while Garfield was preparing my order for pickup sometime in 2057, I wanted to show you guys something that I found earlier. So, you remember Zoe from the Rain Syndicate Tower, right? Well, apparently she's been hiding out in this abandoned church. And she really wants me to kidnap a Grisbolt from the Pal Sanctuary. Bro, last time I went to one of those, I got hunted down by the Mafia. And a Grisbolt sounds pretty good. But honestly, I kind of wanted to catch her too. Oh. Guys, I'll come back later because Zoe wasn't home. Anyways, Pal Sanctuary number 1 was actually pretty low level compared to me now. And I've already caught basically everybody here, except for one creepy gentleman. So, naturally, I entered his bedroom uninvited, launched a giant ball of death directly into his retina twice, and introduced him to my favorite Pal sphere. Well, that was easy. And just like that, Grisbolt marks Pal number 107 out of 204. With a friendly smile and a hearty physique. Friendly smile? Brother, that's a creepy smile, and he has the physique of a 47-year-old dad at a cookout. But apparently this man takes the right to bear arms very seriously, because for reasons unexplained, its personality undergoes a drastic change when welding a minigun. Well, to be fair, I think mine would too if I was welding a minigun, but approximately 3 seconds after reading that sentence, I attended a college seminar on how to make one. But visiting this sanctuary made me really want to see what was hiding in the other sanctuaries. So I took a vacation to the tropical beaches in the Northwest, flew out over the ocean, and eventually I saw this. Okay, I cannot let that thing see me. But this sanctuary, which was being guarded like a military airspace, looked completely different. It almost looked like outer space. Although I'm pretty sure it's some kind of alternate volcanic region, because after finding this lava-loving anime girl, shooting her in the face, and politely introducing myself, I offered her a job, and then I found this weird ancient lava rock, and I committed geology. But anyways, the boss of this sanctuary was a level 55 Astagon, and with the spheres I had right now, well, I'd probably have to sit here throwing 47 balls at this man for a 2% capture chance. I needed something better. So at the start of day 53, I decided to expand my workforce by adding 3 more part-time employees, including Kitsune, a Blazehowl Noct, and finally, Mr. Suitseer, who was significantly higher level than the other 2. And while I was trying to catch this creature from my nightmares, I had another problem. This guy. This man would not leave me alone. And I spent the next 5 minutes of my life wasting spheres on a 15% capture chance, unable to capture this man, while the Galapagos Department of Homeland Security was unable to capture me. But eventually, I got him. And Mr. Sleep Paralysis Demon marks Pal number 109 out of 204. So after heading back to base, it was time to come up with a plan. Because first of all, the Pal Steel was still not done, and it's been in Mr. Blazehowl's oven for over 2 hours. You only made 8? Brother, are you smelting it or raising it from birth? So I spent some time around base making a bunch of resources until I finally had enough to build furnace number 2. And then I made Grisbolt his minigun, like a true American. Also, I had to set up another electric generator because having 2 forges means I need more electricity. Okay, we're doing Pal metal on this second one. But as Mr. Blazehowl continued spending the next 3 fiscal quarters making Pal Steel, it was now day 54. And unfortunately, these Pal metal ingots weren't going to smelt themselves. So I headed back to the Masandra Forest and spent some quality time assaulting rocks, because I need a bunch of quartz to keep the production moving. And on the second trip back to the forest, I found Robin Hood's cousin. So I kidnapped him, and then I went back to aggressively studying geology. I was also starting to run pretty low on Paldium at this point somehow, so I had to keep queuing the Crusher up for that. But once all of this finishes, I should finally have enough materials to upgrade my armor and take on the 5th boss tower. But more importantly than that, Grisbolt's minigun was finished, which means after carrying this team for half the playthrough, it was finally time for Bernie Sanders to enter retirement. Thank you for your service. Because Bernie was now being replaced with the right to bear arms.
No, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Okay, to be fair, right to bear arms is only level 30, but I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting a little more freedom from that. But I was out in the desert because I needed hardwood from these trees. And apparently Weed Whacker is not only trained in explosive weaponry, he's also a practitioner of advanced lumberjitsu. But I needed all this wood for a reason, because after making a sniper module in the workstation, which apparently increases my success rate when I kidnap people from long distance, I spent the next hour of my actual life crafting some ultimate spheres, making this summoning altar to level up the base, crafting some more ultimate spheres, and witnessing a dude that was selling berries walk into my bedroom uninvited. Dude, get out of my house! And why do you need 2 armed guards to sell berries? But it was now day 56, and after some more paldium was milled, I had 15 ultimate spheres. And the plan was to catch a faster pal for getting around the map, and then start taking down the rest of the towers to see what lies behind the tree. So I set out for the lava to find a jet dragon, the fastest flyer in the game. Also, I caught this Ragnarok on the way there, and dude, these ultimate balls, they're insane. But when I made it over to where I thought the jet dragon lived, instead there was a buffoon just standing on business. Okay, that is not a jet dragon, bro. I'm assuming they changed something on this new 1.0 update, because he was here on launch, but that was like 2 years ago. But either way, I was gonna catch a dragon today. So I headed back down to the Pal Sanctuary number 2, where Mr. Astagon was living in his cave. And I'm not leaving until one of us becomes an unpaid intern. Go. Darth Vader marks PAL number 111 out of 204. And this man is a level 7 miner. Okay, I need to make this saddle. So after discovering a PAL disassembly conveyor, bro, this is an assembly line to murder my employees? I unlocked the saddle. But the next tower was in the North Pole, and I assumed it was on this little mushroom island, so I spent some time exploring, where I hired a demon to work for me, enslaved an armadillo called KITTYCUT, and witnessed a botanical wyvern enter his first day of indentured servitude. Because on day 57, I realized that despite a boss tower being on this island, this was not where I was supposed to be. Oh, the quest is over there in the snow. So I headed back to my humble sweatshop abode, crafted some cold-resistant PAL armor, a palmetto helmet to protect my handsome head, and some corrosive solvent to make a saddle for Darth Vader, because it was time to test this man out. Now, this next area was still around level 40, so I abducted this Rayhound and absolutely eviscerated his father using Darth Vader's death laser, and that was fun. But when I made it to the waypoint, the next tower was just a hypothermia-induced hike ahead. Oh, it's right there. And that's when I realized I might actually be in a bit of trouble. Wait a minute. Bro, I'm on day 57. I still have 4 boss fights left, almost 100 pals left to catch. Yeah, I was panicking at the disco. And with everything taking even longer to craft as the levels get higher, I needed to pick up the pace. But if I keep following the main quest and catch basically every new pal that has the misfortune of making eye contact with me, I just might finish this before day 100. So I approached the quest marker, where I found this fella chugging a pint of liquor next to his igloo. Bro, you do realize if you walk about 30 foot that way, there's no snow over there, right? But apparently this frozen couple was struggling to make ends meet, and they needed handsome Squidward to help them out. Of course they do. Now, luckily I was equipped with my brand new ultimate spheres, and these things are ridiculously expensive, but they can easily capture level 30 pals like this Munchill. Okay, did you really have to fail the one time I'm explaining how good you are? Pretend I did that first try. Anyways, my first objective was to take down a terrifying group of mad scientists. Why are the mad scientists sleeping outside? Okay, correction. I had to take down a terrifying group of homeless people. Homeless people with flamethrowers. I guess their housing budget went into the military. But after surviving the world's most hostile homeless shelter, I managed to recover the Eskimo couple's pal sphere, and in return, she told me about Victor, the homeless Eskimo research bro behind all of this. He had some audio logs in the ruins, and after running around everywhere for another lazy NPC, she told me about this other guy, who is no longer with us, but he left behind a note, and I read it really fast, and the only thing I really picked up is that Victor has an eye patch. So now I'm looking for a homeless researcher Eskimo that is also a pirate. So I spent the rest of day 58 just exploring the snow, and when I told the two frozen dudes that Victor was indeed a pirate, they gave Squidward the task of murdering him. Why am I not surprised? But anyways, I have everything that I need. Probably. So after doing some base stuff, day 59 began. AKA the last day that a homeless researching pirate will ever walk this earth. Hey, how's it going, dude? Good luck, Victor. So if you're wondering what kind of key sphere a homeless pirate research bro Eskimo possesses, it's the key sphere of gluttony. Also, Darth Vader is no longer with us. But I now had 5 out of 8 spheres to get past that world tree, and there's so many new things I can make now. But I only have 40 days to get all of this done. All right, man, let's just keep going. So while Darth Vader was resurrecting in my living room, I hatched a few new pals, marking indentured servants number 117 and 118 out of 204. And then I set back out to continue the main quest. The next tower was on the mushroom forest that I found before. And after speaking to this grieving samurai who lost his katana and would do anything to get it back, well, anything except for move or walk, or do literally anything besides complain and then ask me to do it. Bro, I know I'm gonna sound like a boomer, but today's generation is so entitled. But I decided to help him. And after shooting a giant laser into the pancreas of a bulldog and then hiring him to my company, I had to take down this group of ninjas. Now, since they're technically Asian, I summoned a panda bear with a grenade launcher to destroy them. Wait, okay, so I want to clarify that the panda was the joke there for being culturally appropriate, not the grenade launcher. Please don't cancel me. But anyways, the katana was secured. And after some more NPC-related activities, once again, handsome Squidward has been tasked with murdering someone that lives in a tower. It's like the 5th time this week. And since he's level 55, this one's gonna be a lot more difficult. Okay, I definitely need the right affinity, but I don't even know what it's gonna be. Now, Darth Vader has been absolutely amazing, but I wanted one other legendary pal because he can't do it on his own. So I made my way to the North Pole, where I found Pal Sanctuary number 3. This place looks like an alien planet, and there were some freaky activities going on here, but I was here for the legendary, the Frost Stallion Noct, level 65? As soon as I said that, I probably should have turned around, but I figured that since I was level 58, maybe I could pull this off. I couldn't have been more wrong, because first, I summoned Darth Vader, who got laser beamed by a dark horse, that brother deceased, and also my shotgun did 1 damage to this man. So I summoned a panda with a grenade launcher, and that brother ate 45 grenades and then sent him to the Shadow Realm. Okay, this is insane. Next up for public execution was Hot Wing, who tried his best, but did not succeed. And at this point, I've done about 1 slap to the face worth of damage to this man. Well, that's kind of sad. But I still wasn't ready to give up, because I'm not very smart. So I spent the next 5 minutes trying to cheese the dude by summoning Microtransaction and Cleocatra, kind of like hiding on top of the rock while slowly dealing 7 damage at a time. And it was almost working, you know, despite the fact that this would probably take 4 hours, until, well, they died too. And I kind of realized that the ultimate sphere isn't even good enough to catch this overpowered Katy Perry looking man. So I finally just gave up, and I had to walk and swim all the way home. But I did catch this guy. Anyways, my whole squad was now doing some self-improvement, and I was doing some interviews on some newborn interns, because on day 61, it was pretty obvious that I needed to get more pals still going so I could start farming Hexite for the laser rocket weapons. And that's where things get complicated, because I need a 3rd base for oil and quartz if I want to seriously grind. And to unlock the location for the 3rd sweatshop, well, I needed to make these peasants some larger beds. And I'm out of technology points because, if I'm being honest, I had 0 interest in making them anything other than these straw beds right here. Like, I was just gonna let Morgan Freeman sleep on this thing until day 100, bro. So I needed to level up. And I spent the rest of day 61 assaulting desert trees for hardwood for pal spheres, and watching Darth Vader incinerate some sulfur to make some more polymer and gunpowder. And since I literally can't do anything until I level up again, I decided to make a terrible decision. Ladies and gentle pals, this is probably like the worst idea I've had yet, but I'm gonna use this same exact team, and it's time for tower number 6. Okay, so that almost worked, and even though it was really close, I needed some better pals, some better weapons, or both. So on day 62, it was time to level up, so I can make a large bed for some unpaid interns that really don't deserve it. And then I can set up a third Amazon factory to farm some oil. Laser Gatling gun. Yeah, I want that one, bro. And since the best way to level up in this game is catching new pals, that's exactly what I did. First, I played some laser tag with a square. And I'm not really sure if he's worth using because he's slower than molasses, but either way, I made him fit inside my Pokeball. Next up was this Phoenix named Suzy Q. He was pretty low level, so enslaving him was super easy, barely an inconvenience. And finally, I went for the OG Frost Stallion, because the Katy Perry themed one is unfair, man. Now, this Frost Stallion was only level 60, and I'm level 59. Sounds pretty fair, right? Well, it wasn't, because all I did was say hello, and then this happened. What? Yeah, I just evaporated. Dude, how is he so strong? And I ended off day 62 by slaying an Anubis. Yeah, I wanted to catch him, but those toucans kind of messed me up. But I was super close to not being inferior anymore. So I headed over to the ruins where a ginormous suit of armor was existing without my permission, and I ended his existence by introducing him to a microtransaction. Yeah, that's my weakness too, man. But I was now level 60, and as soon as I hit that, I did this. I'll probably need that. Wait, no! So if you didn't catch what just happened, I just impulse purchased that helmet, and now I have no technology points again. Why am I like this? I did have enough for the 3 California king-size dog beds though, and I just needed 3 more Ingram points for this refined chest. So in the meantime, since I needed some oil, I decided to go to this Syndicate oil rig, which is level 55. You know, the one that the police officer really didn't want me to go near from earlier. Hey, Bo, you see that huge structure towering over the ocean? It's a dangerous place, so make sure to stay away from it. As I approached the oil rig, I didn't really know what to expect, but it certainly wasn't a giant laser beam trying to snipe me out the sky. Dude, why does everything in this game shoot lasers? It's almost like the developers are some kind of laser tag enthusiast. But the lasers weren't the problem. The problem was that there were 25 thugs with machine guns that don't value me being alive. Okay, that wasn't even fair. And when I tried to fly back over to get my stuff back, well, this happened. No. And then I drowned. Good times. Bro, I just want my stuff back. So while I waited 10 minutes for my flyers to heal up again, I smacked some rocks and set some metal on fire. And this time, on my heist to infiltrate a thug's oil rig and steal my book bag back, I used Hot Wing. And I managed to like stay behind the wall, get my bag, and get out of there. Oh, no, please. Barely. That was so close. Okay, I'm really sorry that I didn't follow your advice, bro. It was pretty good advice. But before I could take on Victor again, I still needed one more level. So it was time to add a few more unwilling participants to my team. Starting with the dinosaur from Flintstones, Donkey Kong, Fire Edition, and this absolute unit of a man. I named him Icebert. But with those guys captured for XP, I did some more grinding, queued up a bunch of carbon fiber, and made some legendary Pokeballs. Because just like in real life, kidnapping gets significantly more expensive in the late game. And on day 65, well, the grind continued. I captured this Yakumo dog, explored a bit more, leveled up, and also captured Lulu, which officially brings my company to 128 full-time employees, and somehow I'm still understaffed. But now that I've leveled up, I could finally start working on what I was actually trying to do. I queued up a bunch of electronics, built the new storage box, and upgraded the base. Because now, ladies and gentlemen, we've officially unlocked Sweatshop number 3. And this one wasn't going to be some ordinary mining operation, because we're expanding into oil. And I found the perfect spot, with everything a rapidly expanding, morally questionable corporation could ever possibly need. Oil nodes, sulfur, and coal. And now, it's time for the grand opening. Okay, so a somewhat significant amount of time has passed, but we did it. We have a giant generator here, and the way that it works is my creepy power man just frowns angrily at the thing, and then it gets intimidated, because anger is a renewable source of energy. But that powers the oil pump, and we only have one right now, but honestly, that's enough, because I have 2 Rayhounds powering the furnaces, and then Grisbolt here. And my Amazon factory workers slack off at any chance they get. Are you telling me you're not working because you have an ulcer? What is this, Weenie Hut Jr.? And I also leveled up my main base all the way to level 19. So we have enough space in the factory for 4 more unpaid interns. But anyways, it was almost day 70 and there were still 3 towers left. And I can't make new gear till the pal steel is finished. So I made some more shotgun shells, and at this point, I assumed that taking down Celine and the Mushroom Forest Tower would be a piece of cake. But I was wrong, because first up was Kevin the Destroyer. Now, he has insane health, and using him as a distraction allowed me to spray 45 shotgun shells into Celine's left elbow, and that went pretty well. And next up, I summoned Darth Vader to convince Celine that he was her father. He succeeded. But that's about where all of my successes ended. Because when I summoned her twin sister, my Celine, well, she got lasered into oblivion. And if I brought more ammo, it would have been fine, but one by one, Hot Wings, and then Weed Whacker himself, they both entered the afterlife. And even though I was super close to taking her out, the timer took me out first. Man, 5 minutes is so short to deal 200,000 damage. Like, that's insane. But it was now day 70, and I was planning on making this Pal Steel armor when it finishes smelting, but then I noticed this. Oh, bro, what is that? Like an exosuit? The Ultra Kill armor is 40 Pal Steel, but it gives heat and cold resistance, somehow. Don't question it. And it also has even higher defense. So I needed this exosuit and a better weapon. And we'll have all that in a couple days' time. Okay, maybe more than a couple days. Yeah, I built another forge, and then I added some more sweatshop employees, and then I bought some medicine to cure this man's ulcer so he'll start working again. And hopefully that'll help a little bit. So in the meantime, there were 2 areas that I still needed to explore. The city in the clouds over there, and Faybreak over there in the southwest, but I'm not actually sure what that is. I wanted to try the clouds first because, I mean, it's pretty cool. But after holding up on my left joystick for 15 minutes, are we there yet? I saw a tornado render in, and when I finally arrived, you know, underneath it, I tried flying straight up at one of the lowest points on the island. But Hot Wing ran out of stamina about 70% of the way there, and it wasn't even close. Okay, so how do I even get up there then? I ended up figuring it out later, but at the time, I just continued on, spending another 5 minutes flying across the ocean, until eventually I reached Faybreak Island. And I saw this. Level 67? This area was the real deal. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be honest, but after witnessing this Splatterina who looks like something from Silent Hill, and farming some Hexalite quartz, which is meant for the next tier after Pal Steel, wow, I've got a lot of work to do. Day 71 began. Most of the pals on Faybreak Island were around level 60. And this guy marks pal number 130 at a 204, by the way. Also, I'm out of legendary and ultimate spheres now, but it's been almost 40 minutes, so I headed back to base, collected thy pal steel. It's about time, bro. And after moving some resources, I finally queued up the Ultra Kill armor. Okay, guys, so I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is that this armor is actually overpowered, but the bad news is that I look like the lamp from Pixar. And now it was time to decide what I'm gonna use to kill people that live in towers. I had it narrowed down to a Gatling gun, a laser rifle, and a guided missile launcher. Oh, that guy's new. And then I needed like 150 more for the gigantic hexalite furnace. So I spent the rest of the day just watching that man cook, making a bio battery, a computer, sleeping in one of my servants' beds while he slept on the floor, making a laser rifle, making a cartridge, mining this meteor, and I now have 117 meteor fragments. I didn't even notice that you could make a meteor launcher until recently, but I had enough meteors for that, so I made it. Bro, this thing is either going to be extremely overpowered or like absolutely useless. And there was one way to find out which of those statements were true. Hello, campfire lady. Okay, so I'm wearing this Ring of Mercy so she can't die from that. But what happened next was legit the most insane thing I've ever experienced on this game. Because first, I tried to enslave her. And since that is illegal, the police spawned 13 feet away from me. Okay, fair enough. I then decided to test my meteor launcher on the officer's left pectoral muscle. It did 700 damage, by the way, which is kind of terrible, but I didn't end there because I also wanted to test the laser rifle. And here's where things got about 5 times more insane because the laser rifle does 800 damage per headshot, meaning I obliterated them all and then got a 5-star wanted level. A few seconds later, 37 other dudes spawned in. Oh no. And a few minutes after that, well, this happened. An attack chopper?
You done messed up, Aaron!
It has 2 million health. The police were after me, and I tried to run. I mean, I really did, but bro, this is insane. And yeah, they ended up launching a nuke or something, and I perished. Okay, I can't even be mad. That was impressive. So with everything ready, I crafted about 650 shots for my new laser rifle, and it was finally time to take on Celine, so I can move on to Faybreak Island. As the fight commenced, honestly, I was messing this lady up, and it was going way better than I expected until... Wait, why am I out of ammo? Dude, I have 650 shots. Wait, laser Gatling cartridge? Oh, bro, I made the wrong ammo. I just spent basically all of my resources making 650 rounds for a gun that I don't even have.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So I guess I'm using the meteor launcher, and I'm not gonna lie, this thing is kind of trash. It basically does the same damage as the laser per shot, but it has to reload every time and is way more expensive. But I tried my best, and I somehow still managed to get Celine really close. But yeah, I wasn't able to finish. But at this point, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Make the right ammo. And apparently, I haven't even unlocked the recipe yet. Okay, that's kind of embarrassing. I crafted 20 bio batteries, spent basically every single one of them, and turned them into 400 rounds of actual laser rifle ammo. It was revolutionary. Because this time, I am not dying to this chick. The fight went pretty well this time around, and I was doing a lot more damage than even my pals were. But around 200 laser shots to her dome later, my kill-death ratio is now 1-4, and it was time to continue the questline for the last 2. Thank you, kind sir. You have my utmost gratitude. We're finally safe here. What? Well, I guess you're not safe here. Wait, before you die, can I still turn in the quest? I had to just like leave and come back, but yeah, the dude's alive now. But anyways, I only have 26 days left. So I spent the rest of day 73 making 24 bio batteries, fast traveling between my bases like 87 times to get some other resources going, and crafting 14 ultimate spheres and 300 laser rifle shots. Because on day 74, it was time for Faybreak Island. Now, I'm absolutely terrified of this place, but after I started exploring, well, I was still terrified, but there were also ultimate balls on the ground, and I somehow found myself flying through this giant cavern that cuts through the middle of the region, and I didn't find too much until I made it back up to the surface, because that's where I met him, Mr. Omaskull. The man that made me start questioning my decisions. Basically, ultimate spheres have a 25% chance with anything over level 60 or worse. And I don't even know what this thing is, but he marks employee number 131 out of 204. But anyways, I flew halfway across the earth, caught this smoky fella, and witnessed some Relaxaurus going for a midnight swim in the lake. But nothing too interesting happened until later that day, where I caught a Celestier and had a conversation with an old guy. According to this aged gentleman, calamity was not a natural disaster like everyone thinks. It was caused by a person, and his boss in the tower was tapping his foot impatiently or something like that, and that's why he needs my help. I don't know. They make the worst excuses to make me fly across the map, bro. But while I was running around doing errands for lazy people, I found a Prunelia and a Gildane. which marks cult members number 132, 133, 134, and 135 out of 204 unpaid interns. But I found this recording over here confirming exactly what the guy told me, and I flew all the way back just to tell this guy that this whole meeting could have just been an email because he already knew what happened. And what does this man do? He tells me to fly all the way over here to read another note. Yeah, I'm really starting to dislike NPCs, but following his quest marker led me through this cave. And once I made it back outside, it opened up to this. Okay, this is sick. You've got this massive open landscape, a winding road through the mountains, and at the end of the road was the tower, looking very menacing. But unfortunately, instead of going there, I had to grab this note and fly all the way back to this guy. And after everything I discovered, he finally revealed that his boss was actually the evil tower boss this entire time. What a surprise. So I headed back to the bridge again, dropped down, and started following the road back to the tower, where I met 3 very friendly gentlemen. For some reason, the instant they laid eyes on me, they just started kami-hami-hiing their lasers, and Hot Wing got extinguished. So I had to head home and perform emergency CPR on a giant bird in the middle of my living room. Come on, buddy. Stay spicy. And while I was waiting on that, I also unlocked Celine's saddle, and I spawn trapped this Fenglope Lux into a life of indentured servitude from birth. But anyways, that night, while my entire workforce was peacefully asleep, we got attacked by hoodlums. So everybody woke up, casually murdered some home intruders, and then went right back to bed. I was a proud father that day. But anyways, on day 76, I continued exploring. And after unlocking another fast travel point, I have to go all the way over there. I tried to catch this Phaleris Aqua, but then Darth Vader accidentally decapitated him. My bad. But I continued on, and it took forever because apparently this region is bigger than your mother. But on my way, I found another Phaleris Aqua, and this time I managed to catch him with his head still attached. And then I found this, a mushroom cosplayer, who proceeded to consume basically every ultimate sphere that I had left. Get in the ball! Thank you. But after crossing approximately 3 more zip codes, I finally made it to the tower. And then I fast traveled away like a coward. Because back at base, I still have some preparation to do, including hatching this banana-colored gremlin, which brings our total number of indentured servants to 137 and 138 out of 204. We're slowly getting there. I really wanted Phaleris on my roster, but his saddle requires hexalite, and I need a small nation's GDP worth of PAL steel to make this gigantic furnace, so we'll do that soon enough. Because the next boss tower is level 60, and honestly, I think I'm ready. But my pals, however, are not ready. I needed stronger fighters, I needed better stats, and I needed more legendaries, to be honest. So on day 77, I did what any responsible leader does when his army isn't strong enough. I forced my factory workers to make some ultimate spheres against their will, because I wanted to catch Frostallion, and this time, I was prepared. Well, at least he lasted for 8 seconds. Let's go! And yeah, Frostallion has been recruited to my cult of unpaid labor. But the saddle requires these coral ingots, which I'm like nowhere near making yet because I still don't have hexalite. Sorry buddy, we're poor. But it's fine, because this man is still amazing without it. And I was trying to test him out. And first of all, he did 1,000 damage to a chicken by simply existing. But when I actually got him to use his abilities, well, it was nothing short of what I would describe as frosty. Oh my. Man just gave him hypothermia and did 50k damage. I think this might just work. So while I was waiting on everyone to stop being dead, I farmed some more hardwood, some more quartz, and got some more ingots crafting at the second sweatshop location. Because on day 78, I needed a name for my new Frostallion. The name of a champion. The name of someone that truly deserves to conquer this world. So I named him Juan. But anyways, Juan and Darth Vader are my only legendary pals. But with Hot Wing, Donkey Kong, and this level 66 Phaleris Aqua, I wanted to try and take down the level 60 boss in the Fey Break Tower, Sir Bjorn the Cold. Now, this fight started off on the wrong side of the thermostat, because I wasn't expecting to be in hypothermia land. Dude, I'm dying from the cold in here. But since Bjorn is an ice affinity, Juan doesn't really have an advantage here. And after Juan did his thing, and Darth Vader got obliterated by a winter breeze, I summoned some hot wings, and that's when I actually started to have some hope. Oh, the fire affinity is insane. And I knew that ice beats fire, but I didn't know it would be that crazy just with a Vanworm. But long story short, I used a few hundred laser shots, Hot Wing committed arson on a Viking, and I got super close to winning this fight. But I didn't, because it was too chilly outside, and I didn't bring my jacket. So close. Now, the best armor that I have unlocked only gives level 2 protection from hypothermia, and I already have that. So I was trying to figure out how to survive. And the answer to that question was cold-resistant hexalite. And I needed 50 hexalite ingots for that. All right, I guess I need to make this planet-sized gigantic furnace then. So I crafted 110 polymer. I mean, told someone else to do it for me while I slept in my cozy bed. And about 20 minutes later, I collected some PAL steel from the 3rd Amazon factory, some PAL ingots from the 2nd sweatshop, forced some unpaid laborers to make 24 carbon fiber, built 12 gaming PCs. There's like so many things you have to make in this game, man. And now, I just have to wait on some of these professional eaters in the ranch to produce some more high quality PAL oil and some flame organs, which is a little disturbing when you think about it. But in the meantime, I realized that while I'm trying to afford the hexalite, I already have this Soralite stuff in my technology tree. AI core. Soul Sphere. Bro, this is like when you buy the new iPhone and then 2 weeks later they come out with the next one. So while I was waiting, I crafted a PAL metal pickaxe, made a quick trip to Faybreak Island, pre-ordered some hexalite ingots, and on day 80, I realized that to make the hexalite ingots, I also need chromite. And according to the one singular piece that I have inside my kitchen, yeah, I don't even know where I got this thing from, apparently this stuff can be found inside of dungeons, and you need a metal detector to find it. And to make a metal detector, I need Nightstar Sand. Okay, this is starting to feel like I need a chemistry degree to beat this game, man. But Nightstar Sand spawns on the beaches of Faybreak Island, apparently. And I couldn't find any at first. Just this ganglerfish. But when nightfall approached, I realized why it was called Nightstar Sand. Oh, you can only see it at night. Okay. So I pulled an all-nighter, grabbing sand on the beach and catching this Gelroy. Because on day 81, workers number 141 and 142 were excluded from payroll. And more importantly, after 30 minutes of crafting random tech parts, I finally made a metal detector. Also, I hatched this Starion from an egg. But now that I had a metal detector, I teleported back to Faybreak and entered a dungeon with a level 58 boss. Not because I needed the loot, not because I wanted a challenge, but because I wanted to walk around underground with my metal detector like a divorced dad at the beach. Now, the first area that I scanned, I didn't find much, but in the second cavern, after summoning a frostbite horse named One, and watching him murder 2 cave hermits in cold blood, pun intended, my metal detector suddenly started screaming my name. This was indeed a chromite deposit, and 1 ore gave me 131 chromite, which is pretty good, except for one glaring issue. This stuff weighed more than Morgan Freeman after Thanksgiving dinner. So I had to make some sacrifices, and by sacrifices, I meant dropping 732 berries that I was carrying, and yes, I am still eating berries on day 81. Don't judge me. It's called meal prepping, okay? But anyways, as I delved deeper into the dungeon, I met a few degenerates, and I met an oversized Kitsune Noct, the boss of this dungeon. He was only level 55, so it really wasn't that difficult, but for some reason the sphere said he had a less than 1% chance of accepting my job offer, so I just decapitated him instead. Nice. But now the dungeon was clear, and after backtracking and getting jumped by some heathens, and I found another chromite node. And now that I'm severely overweight, I headed back home. Because on day 82, everything was ready. Well, everything except for the flame organs, and I needed 30 more of those. So as the only paid employee at this company, I took some paid time off to visit the volcano, where I harvested some kidneys that were very hot, got everything else together, and I finally made the gigantic furnace. It's about time, man. That was so annoying to make. I'm really glad that I pre-ordered that hexalite though, because I immediately had 261 ingots ready to craft, and it might take a while. Also, the Moonbreak hoodlums decided to interrupt my cooking class to try to raid me and then get absolutely smited out of existence. Okay then. But anyways, I had 4 of my master chefs cooking up some hexalite in the gigantic furnace. And I can't make the cold resistant armor until that's done, so in the meantime, I wanted to make sure that I win this fight. And since Bjorn the Viking dude is cold affinity, I need to set him on fire. So I spent the rest of the day going through my roster and subbing in Bernie Sanders, Harambe's hot-headed grandfather, and a Blaze Hal Noct, but they were all low level. So I spent the next 20 minutes bullying Victor in the snow tower again, for being a homeless researching Eskimo pirate, of course, because redoing the higher level boss fights will instantly level up low level pals in your party. And finally, I crafted some cold resistant Hexa light armor swag. Because on day 83, it was now or never. If I can't beat this Viking dude in his very cold residence, time is gonna run out. So it's time for the battle of a century. Fire versus ice. Let's see who wins. And just like that, Squidward was officially more handsome than a Viking. And more importantly, the Key Sphere of Wrath has been secured. Alright man, there's only one more left. But when I spawned on top of the dude's tower house, this time there was a portal here. A portal that teleported me to the place I've been trying to get for the last 20 days. Oh, bro, I'm on the clouds. This is Sunreach, and there was a sky lady here who asked me if I was a surface dweller, and I mean, I guess I am, but for some reason I was kind of offended by that. But before I explore any further, I decided to grab this fast travel point and head back to turn in the quest. Wait, if you're here, does that mean you defeated the great Lord Bjorn? This man was highly impressed at Squidward's combat skills, and he apologized for his NPC behavior. I'm sorry for all the running around I've had you do. Well, at least he apologized. But it was now day 84, and I had 16 days left to take down the final tower. But it wasn't gonna be easy, because after doing some base stuff and getting the band back together, my next quest was to shut down all 6 of the barrier's power sources. And they're all located in the super high level zone in the clouds. Alright bro, one last area. As I entered the end game, I saw a level 70 Quiver. I also saw this weird looking rock that was invincible, requires a plasma multi-cutter. What kind of sorcery is this? And a pink flower that puked on me. Ew, bro, okay, get away from me. I don't think I'm ready for this region, to be honest, but I'm gonna do it anyways. So I went through this gate and up to a tree, where I found a few level 65 blades of grass, and I haven't caught this guy yet, so I was trying to do that, but the ultimate spears are absolutely useless here, with like 10% chance. And the moment that this man tried to fight back, well, his giant green laser beam did like 20,000 damage to my hot wings. I did manage to eventually cut the grass though. But anyways, the first power source was over in this lake, and I just had to turn it off. Seems easy enough. Yo! I tried to do a ninja defuse like I was playing Search and Destroy. Okay, come on, man. And after some technical difficulties, I actually got it. And I'm honestly not even sure how I'm still alive, but anyways, I needed some better gear. So back at my humble abode, I unlocked some new engrams, and my goal was to make the plasma multi-cutter, so I can farm some coralum ingots and make some better pal spheres, and then maybe I won't get murdered by a plant. So on day 85, after queuing up some materials and ingots, it was time to come up with a plan. And step 1 was simple: unlock every waypoint on the map. So that's exactly what I started doing. And along the way, I was finding a ton of new pals. Some of them looked really cool, and others looked like they were legally required to introduce themselves to their neighbors. But then I saw this, a giant, mysterious, floating red ball. So naturally, I had to touch it. What? Did I just teleport? The giant red ball just teleported me, but luckily it dropped me off right next to this generator that I needed to disable. So thanks, giant red ball, you're a real one. And with only 4 power sources remaining, I continued grabbing waypoints, although the one in the center of Sunreach was like 6 foot below the International Space Station. There's no way I can get up there. So we'll come back to that, because as I continued around the outskirts, I found some ice ostriches. I also found this completely normal looking rock, which turned into a degenerate. He also tried to kill me. And then approximately 34 other things tried to kill me as well. But eventually I came across the next power source, and it was hidden inside this Japanese samurai looking house. Now, I can't just walk right in there and turn it off, because it's guarded by an entire group of rabid samurai and their giant bird, who was apparently cosplaying as a machine gun. But after blasting Machine Gun Kelly Bird Edition with a giant laser, I incapacitated him, threw a sphere directly at his jawbone, and now I just had to disable the generator. But there was still, you know, samurai everywhere, so this might be a little bit difficult. Three out of 6 power sources have been disabled, but 3 out of 6 power sources still remained as well. So I continued deeper into Sunreach, where I found these fish sleeping in a very interesting position. I can't tell if they're sleeping or if they just given up on life. Anyways, I used my frostbite horse named Juan to raid another home of some local Sunreach residents, and the raids were actually getting really difficult at this point. But eventually, the generator was disabled. And then I found this guy. Oh, that guy looks sick. I had to have him. Unfortunately, I can't enslave high-level employees yet, so we'll come back for him later. And I'm also not going to show you guys every single generator raid because it got extremely repetitive, but essentially, I flew to the remaining waypoints, broke into some people's houses, murdered the entire family lineage, and ended the entire bloodline of some samurai, all because I wanted to turn off their light switch, and repeated the process. Because by day 87, I had managed to find a couple exotic and soul spheres just lying around. But if I wanted to catch all these overpowered sky pals, I was gonna need way more. Luckily, the unpaid interns at Sweatshop number 3 had finally produced 100 hexalot ingots though, which meant that I could start working towards the mining drill. But there was just one problem. Apparently, building one requires every material ever discovered by mankind. So I spent day 87 watching my roommates manufacture approximately 87 different micro resources. I wouldn't be surprised if there were 3 fidget spinners and a Samsung refrigerator in there, because on day 88, I was still farming resources. Okay, that's finally everything. But when everything had finished, I demolished my old sphere assembly line and replaced it with a brand new advanced sphere assembly line. We're kidnapping professionally now, because this thing lets me turn hexalite into exotic spheres, which means I can finally catch the highest level and highest altitude ridiculously overpowered pals, including Eidolon and even Jet Dragon, the fastest pal in the entire game, I think. Don't fact check me, please. But it was now day 89. And I realized something. I only have 11 days remaining. And there was like 50 pals that still didn't work at my company. And at this point, there was no more time for sightseeing. No more getting distracted, and no more spending 3 days building a slightly more efficient sweatshop. Because with 26 job applications ready to go, I was prepared to hire approximately 50 new interns, unpaid of course. And unfortunately for the wildlife of Galapagos, the hiring is not optional. And just like that, it was day 96. But I've officially caught them all. Well, kind of. I have 207 total members in my unpaid labor cult, with 186 of them being unique pals out of 204. And that's great, but there's still 18 left and I couldn't find them anywhere. And there's a reason for that, but you'll see why very soon. Because my new roster consists of these gentlemen. Hot Wings, who I can't ever sub out because, I mean, that man's my MVP. Darth 1, aka Mr. Dark Horse. The Lord of the Underworld. His name is Carl. The Celestial Emperor, whose name's Steve. And finally, the legendary Jet Dragon, who has infinite stamina. Max stamina plus 50%. Wait, that's not infinite. That's false advertising. And that's how he got his name. What a fraud, bro. I was gonna make a saddle for false advertisement, but it requires Sorolite ingots, and apparently there's Paxolite ingots too at level 74 to make ancient spheres and plasma weapons. Okay, this game, the grind is insane. And at level 80, there's even an Elytra. But anyways, it was time to defeat Ori at the Azure Covenant Tower. Bro, Handsome Squidward is like a serial killer whose trademark is that he only kills people that live in towers. And with that being said, it was time for my 8th tower dwelling victim. Ladies and gentle pals, it all comes down to this one last fight. Let's do this. Yes, dude. And just like that, the key sphere of Original Sin has been secured. And with all 8 key spheres unlocked, it was time to turn in the final quest. Was Lady Ori happy to see you? And were you able to talk to her? Yeah, we talked. Kind of. Thanks for doing this. Squidward is a terrible person. But anyways, I actually did get to talk to her. And she agreed that I was handsome. Handsome Squidward, huh? The name suits you. You want to get to the world tree, right? Yes, ma'am, I do. Ori told me a story of how there was a terrible evil lying within the abyss of the world tree. An evil with a familiar name, the Calamity. And because of this, the world as we know it would soon come to a grisly demise. Handsome Squidward, you must reach the core of the world tree before that monster fully awakens, and somehow find a way to put an end to it once and for all. I know you have what it takes. It was nice to hear that at least one of us believed in Handsome Squidward, but it wasn't going to be as simple as I thought, because apparently the entrance was blocked by a barrier, and I have to pass a test that has something to do with Panthalus, and if you're wondering what that means, well, so am I. And if you're also wondering if it's possible for me to hire Ori to work for my unpaid company, it's not. I tried. But I spent day 97 going to each of these 3 Panthalus quest markers on the map, picking up some echo bones on the ground, and crafting an echoing flute. I mean, watching Celine craft an echoing flute for me. And then I headed to this remote island and showed my echoing flute to a man with a giant backpack. Is that a flute you have there? He was very happy that I had a flute. But based on what he said next, the flute probably summoned something and he wants me to be prepared first. Okay, bro, you're scaring me. What's about to happen? I can't really prepare for a fight if I don't know what the fight is, and there's really only one way to find out. So Squidward played the flute very impressively, and then this happened. Okay, so that was difficult, but my main problem is that I wasn't ready for a water fight, because even though I'm a handsome squid, none of my employees can swim. They were just like flopping around trying not to drown the whole time, and everything up to this point has been easy enough. I've just been using strong affinity and kind of dodging while my pals beat up my enemies for me, but that's not gonna work anymore. So I started doing some research, and here's what I learned. Since that ginormous brother is clearly a water type pal, He's weak to being electrocuted, but I learned that Beacon here changes my attacks to electric, even when I'm using a rifle. So I'm gonna try that. And if I have Hot Wings in my party, he increases my damage by 20% just for existing. And if I have Univolt in my party, he increases my electric damage by another 25% just for existing. And I'll probably just fill the last 2 slots with False Advertisement and Darth Wand because they're pretty good. So on day 99, I had 1 hour to prepare. I had to make the saddles for the squad to unlock their partner skills, and I also used all my pal souls to max out Beacon's health and defense. And since this dude is basically an electrified military aircraft with feathers, I named him Beak 42. I spent another like 10 minutes fighting Celine a couple more times, which is pretty easy when Darth Wand is level 75 and hits harder than Mike Tyson, but that got Beak 42 to about level 70. And I spent the next 45 minutes of my life micromanaging 3 branches of generously compensated employees, but as day 99 finally came to an end, I made a laser Gatling gun because I already had the 650 shots that I accidentally made for it earlier, and I didn't want them to go to waste, which is kind of ironic because wasting resources on this laser Gatling gun was a big mistake. Because as day 99 came to an end, I thought this fight was going to be pretty easy this time around because a dude on YouTube that did this was doing like 2,000 damage per shot with a heavy assault rifle. But when I tried, well, my laser Gatling gun was basically just tickling that man's elbow. And to make matters worse, Beak 42 got absolutely decimated in like the first 3 seconds of the whale realizing I exist. What? Bro, he just swatted me down like a fly. And without his partner perk, I didn't stand a chance. Okay, dude, whoever made that YouTube video, they seriously lied to me. But at this point, I didn't know what to do. So I spent day 100 just leveling up my Beacon, trying the fight again, which did not end well. And I realized that this is not going to work because I don't have Swirlite to make a heavy assault rifle. So yeah, things were not looking good at this point. But I did have one last idea, and it involves this place. The PvP arena, where you can play ranked Palworld and prove yourself by going against other Pal trainers online. But since I'm only bronze rank, I needed to prove myself. I have to rank up a couple of times so I can get some medals. So it was now day 101, and Handsome Squidward was officially a bronze ranked fighter. But more importantly, I had 30 arena tickets, and that's why I'm here, because 30 tickets can buy the Apocalypse skill fruit, and that's exactly what I did. I then placed said fruit directly into Hot Wing's esophagus, and he ate the whole thing in one bite. Now, the reason I picked Hot Wing and not Darth Wand was because I'm too poor to afford Wand's saddle. But Hot Wing is Dark Affinity too, and this Apocalypse attack does more damage based on how fat your opponent is, and that's what I was banking on. But what I didn't account for, however, was that Hot Wing was also a fire type, meaning these water attacks make him cease to exist almost instantaneously. And that's exactly what happened. Dude, come on, this is so annoying. But I wasn't ready to give up just yet, because after spending the next 20 minutes of my life grinding ranked Palworld again, I bought another skill fruit, and I placed this one into Darth Wand's trachea. And on day 102, I'm going to use everything I've learned so far to give this fight one last shot. But if this doesn't work, I'm really unsure of what I'm going to do next. This one's for all the marbles, boys. Oh, yes! Finally, man. Dude, I really didn't think I was gonna get that. And just like that, I now had a morbidly obese employee. Brother, this man is bigger than my entire plantation. You guys better start working overtime so we can feed him. But there was still one thing left to do. Enter the world tree and save the world. Wait a minute. There's a whole nother map? This video took an insane amount of time, so if you want to see more, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out, and if you like the video to help the video do well, then I'll know you guys want more. Because apparently there's like 200 hours of content in this game, so yeah. And maybe I'll do a challenge, maybe beating Palworld with only humans. Let me know if you have any ideas in the comments. Don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends using the QR code on screen or the link in the description below. And if you like this video, well, I built an entire Pokemon map on Ark, invited 5 YouTubers, and then used mods to turn Ark into a full-blown Pokemon game. It's just as insane as it sounds. So click right here and grab some popcorn. You won't regret it.